What's going on, Janie Scott? The Dallas Cowboys have released Ezekiel Elliott. This should actually come as no surprise. I guess maybe the timing, but the Cowboys have cut Ezekiel Elliott. We're going to talk about that today. Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is making his move. If y'all are not paying attention, Mike McCarthy is starting to defend himself. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you a story I heard on the local radio today. And the story is incredible. And it really put a lot of things in perspective for me. And some of you are going to be shocked to hear this story because I've never heard this story told before. But it's an incredible story. Matter of fact, I'm going to make a video about it today, even after I get off, or I may just cut it out of this and use it as a video. But the story is incredible as it was told on the radio today. So we're going to listen to some of Mike McCarthy's press conference. I think it's from the day. And we're going to listen to Brian Broaddus on 105.3 The Fan talking about various things with the Cowboys that I found to be very interesting. So we got a whole lot that we're going to try to fit inside of this show. So that a few more people get in, whether it be 17 or 17,000. We're going to talk about the Cowboys today. What's going on, Brother Roger? You getting ready to get out of here, aren't you? Or are you already in the flow rider? The Zeke story is very interesting as we get going. Very, very interesting. When the story first started breaking on, oh, okay, you leaving tomorrow, I got you. So when the story first started breaking on Zeke, I was kind of like, so why are the Cowboys releasing Ezekiel Elliott right now? I was kind of like, okay, what's going on? And I've been seeing other people kind of talk about it somewhat, but I'm just getting the news, doing the research on it, and now I'm kind of figuring out what's going on. What's going on, Jared? Jared said, what's next for McCarthy is upgraded running back in the offseason, probably, and don't be stupid in terms of Dak Prescott gets used next season. Well, I got some news for us. Cowboys going to have a tough go next season. Yeah, Jared, I got a video coming out about it tonight at midnight. That'll be my midnight video. I'm going to start my new year off with the Shannon Sharp video. And he went absolutely off, and I was happy to hear him go off. Dominique, what's going on? Henry, what's going on? LaQueen, what's going on? Brandy, Mahoney, what's going on? Alex, what's going on? Nisi, what's going on? Yeah, I'll be releasing that video tonight about Shannon Sharp. I got so many things. There's so much stuff coming up on the Cowboys. I don't even know if I can get it all in. But, hey, it's great to have enough content for you guys to release and just keep you informed and entertained about the Dallas Cowboys. But the thing on Ezekiel Elliott, I was wondering what was going on. But now come to find out, Ezekiel Elliott requested the release. He requested the release. And I was a little bit taken aback by that But from what I'm reading, Zeke has been asking for the release. Alex, what's going on? Gabe, what's going on? Israel, what's going on? He's been asking for the release. Zeke has been unhappy with the way the Cowboys have used him all season long. And I'll be honest with you. I was one who didn't want Zeke to come back. Zeke, and people will argue, you see people argue this stuff, especially, one thing about Cowboy fans, we are a reflection of our owner. We may not admit it, but we're a reflection of our owner. And we absolutely fall in love with players. We do. We fall in love with players. And some people were still beating the drum for Ezekiel Elliott. Some didn't like the language that was being used as it pertained to Ezekiel Elliott. They didn't like the word washed being used. And I can understand that because they like Zeke. But the reality is, Zeke didn't fit this offense. Zeke didn't fit this offense. Zeke had lost more than a step. Unless the Cowboys used him exactly right, Zeke was not going to be good for this team. And he wasn't. Because the cold, hard facts is this. And I was saying this, I beat this drum to death. Zeke was not better than Rico Dowdle. It was blatantly obvious from the very beginning. It was blatantly obvious from the very beginning. Before I give you the rest about Zeke, hold on. Let me read what's on Athlon Sports. They kind of give us some insight on everything that's transpiring here. Because at the end of the day, the question that is being asked is perfect. What is the point of Zeke's request? Why does Zeke want to be released right now? I think I know why Zeke wants to be released right now. Zeke wants to go to a contender. Zeke wants to see what's going on, Jay Recruiter, Vincent Kennedy. Jay, you just come in here making points. I think Zeke hopes that a team like the Lions pick him up. I think that's what he hopes. He wants to see if he can go to a contender. And I'm not going to trip on the Joneses for releasing Zeke. I am going to trip on the Joneses, and this is controversial for you Zeke lovers, but my problem is bringing him in the first place. Bringing Zeke in the first place, that's what I have a problem with. But let me read what they got on Athlon Sports, and I'm going to give you the rest of my opinion on this whole issue. It says here it is a weird goodbye. Time to say goodbye. But the Dallas Cowboys have granted a request from Ezekiel Elliott to cut him, leaving team owner Jerry Jones to bid the faded two-time NFL rushing king farewell. And you know what? There may be some people that say some things about Jerry as it applies to Zeke. I guarantee you, I guarantee you Jerry didn't want to do this. Jerry loves Ezekiel Elliott. Jerry was almost ready to take Zeke's case to the Supreme Court until they told Jerry to calm down. I mean, Jerry loves Zeke. It says, out of respect and appreciation for Zeke and wanting to provide him with an opportunity to pursue any potential playoff participation possible, we are releasing him from the Cowboys roster today. Jones said in a statement shortly after a team source informed CowboysCountry.com that Elliott had asked and had been granted his freedom. I don't really think this is a nasty breakup. Some are it's like they're portraying this as a nasty breakup. This isn't a nasty breakup. Jerry loves Zeke. It's the reason why he brought him back. The reason why he brought him back. And no disrespect to you Zeke lovers. They should have never brought Zeke back. But let me read some more, and I'll go on after that. As I've said many times previously, Zeke's impact as one of the greatest to ever play with the star on their helmet will never change and is etched in our record books and history forever. We thank him, love him, and wish him the absolute best. This ends Zeke's second stint in Dallas, one that lasted 15 games and is not quite a match with the glory that he brought to America's team during the better part of the star's career. What is the point of Zeke's request? Pride is involved. In 2024, through his 15 games, Elliott totaled just 74 carries for 226 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Cowboys as Rico Dowdle eventually usurped him as the number 1 back. Additionally, it is fair to suggest that he might not be in the game plan for Sunday's finale against visiting Washington, as if Dallas plays to play the kids. Tank. Ezekiel Elliott might have found himself a healthy scratch, an idea that came up earlier this year, much to Zeke's disliking. He will now be subject to waivers in the hopes of landing a job with a playoff contender for the remainder of the season. Maybe an arrangement has already been made. He will also try to recapture what he once was, starting in 2016 as a first-round rookie when he wasted little time in becoming one of the most productive backs of his era. There is disgruntlement here, along with courtesy and the love. At age 29, Zeke has little left in the tank, but he wasn't going to help the Cowboys 7-9 this week, and he didn't help much at all on the field. Dallas knew the truth about Elliott's diminishing talents a year ago when the club ate his money, part of his blockbuster. This is the dumbest contract, one of the dumbest contracts the Cowboys ever did, when they gave him this blockbuster 2019 6-year contract worth $90 million and cut him. Stupid. He spent a year in New England before re-upping here in what was largely a feel-good move. Best friend Dak Prescott sure endorsed it. And so this is the story over here. Let me read the last, just a couple of more. By the time he was being accused of failing to focus on attending meetings on time, there was enough disharmony to envision an unhappy ending. And this is the other part people do not understand about Zeke. Zeke did not do what he was brought here to do. Zeke was brought here to help the culture, stabilize the locker room, be an example for the younger players. And the news broke that he wasn't doing that. I thought they should have cut him then. When that news broke and they suspended Zeke for 1 game, they should have cut Zeke then, because we know what they were saying was true. It wasn't made up, because even Dak Prescott was saying he wished that he could help Zeke. And I remember when he said it, because I was like, help Zeke with what? He was talking about Zeke like he was a mental patient. What did he want to help him with? We remember when they asked Zeke, why haven't the Cowboys been using you? This was after the Pittsburgh game when Dallas won that game. Rico Dowdle fumbled at the goal line. Dak Prescott made the play of the night. People think it was the last-second throw to Jalen Tolbert. That was the second best play of the night. The best play of the night was the fact that Dak was aware enough to follow Rico Dowdle when they handed the ball to him, and then when the ball got knocked out of his hand, Dak jumped right on it. Because if he doesn't do that, there's no chance of winning. And it was that play that really got in Zeke's mind, because Zeke was like, this is where I thought y'all were going to be using me. And they never used Zeke like that. And I did not want them to bring Zeke back. But when they brought Zeke back, I was on the record saying the way they should use Zeke is in goal line. They should use him in the screen game. And then I think Zeke would have actually been better in the Cowboys passing game. I think they should have used him sometimes as the slot receiver. Zeke doesn't have a quick step anymore. In case anyone don't know this, Zeke no longer has a quick step. Zeke's first step is very slow. It takes him a little bit more time to get going. But Zeke in space, he can get going because he doesn't have to worry about making that man miss on the first step. He's in space. If you can get him in space, and then once he gets going, Zeke still has that power to where he can get you that 1, 2, or 3 yard run you 3 yards you may need for the first down. Or if he's in space in that screen game, maybe he can get you that 5, that 10, that 15. But again, let me hit y'all with some more knowledge. Zeke don't fit the West Coast offense. This is one of the reasons why while everyone is hollering about McCarthy, I'm ready for McCarthy to go. I think his offense stinks. Period in the story. Let me read this last one, then I'm going to get back to my thought here. It says, it's over here. Maybe it's over for good. Yep, it is. So to Zeke's resume, Elliott was a 3-time Pro Bowler, and an All-Pro who served as a productive and colorful and sometimes controversial figure here, and who over the course of his entirety of his 9-year career tallied over 9,000 yards and 89 total TDs. And if I'm not mistaken, Zeke was in line to break some record or tie some record if he got another touchdown, and he's not going to get it. He's not going to get it. And so let me read some of your comments, and then I'm going to come back and talk more about this issue on Zeke. Janie said she didn't want to miss anything. Brandy, what's going on? JT, that was Poe. Yeah, I'm gonna release that tonight. Alex, appreciate you. What's going on? Gabe says, I guess won't be getting his 1 carry a game second to end the season. Exactly. That was some record he was going to break if he got it, but he's not gonna get it. He's not gonna get it. He's not gonna get it. Don't know what's going on with that one. But I know why he's doing it. And they've already explained it. He's hoping to go to a contender. I'm questionable. Jay Recruiter makes a good point, but I'm questioning whether or not that the Detroit Lions will pick up Zeke. I'm questioning that. I can't see it. We'll look in a moment. Nisi said, this is what happens when the owner is the weekly coaches meeting after each game. They telling them who to play. Yep. I got 2 issues. Zeke should have never been brought back. He should have never been brought back. That was actually the whole problem. He shouldn't have been brought back. The second problem, so you brought him back, but you didn't use him. That compounded the problem. Because what in Jerry Jones' mind? What in Jerry Jones' mind made him think that Zeke was better than Aaron Jones? That's blasphemy. That is absolute blasphemy. Jerry Jones should have got Aaron Jones if he could have got him. And I know he could have got him. He should have got Aaron Jones. He should have unequivocally got Aaron Jones. Now, the strange thing is, from what I've heard, is that Jerry didn't actually want Aaron Jones. He wanted the other running back. He wanted the other Green Bay running back who wound up being gone for the season, if I'm not mistaken. What's this guy's name? I forgot his name. A.J. Dillon, I think it is. I think it's A.J. Dillon who he wanted. And I think Dillon is the one who wound up going out with the injury. But Mike McCarthy wanted Aaron Jones. And I'll tell you this, I think he should have got him. I think Aaron Jones makes a difference on this team. Jared, I think it's locker room issues with Zeke because of his usage. Zeke was probably pretty pissed and made us think about it in the locker room. And not only that, he wasn't showing up on time for meetings, and he was being very disruptive, as you're saying, in the locker room. But here's the other part, Jared, and this is the reason why I think they shouldn't have brought him back either. Because Tony Romo, in his infamous speech about Dak Prescott, Tony Romo said this is a meritocracy. That's what I love about professional football. It is. It's a meritocracy. It's it's the best player plays. The best player starts. Now, Jerry is a little different. Steven says the money's on the field. But Jerry disrupted the whole thing of a meritocracy by making McCarthy do running back by committee, and that was his way of making sure Zeke played. Because I believe that the reason Zeke was making a stink is that Zeke had been made promises rather than somebody saying, hey, Zeke, you're coming in, you're competing. And if you get beat, you get beat. You're going to be the second or the third running back. I don't think that's what he was taught. I don't think that's what he was told. I think he was told, this is what we're going to do with you when you come back. And it wasn't happening, and Zeke wasn't happy, and so Zeke became a problem. I'm like you, Nietzsche. I wouldn't have came back. But you got to understand, and I know you already understand, him and Dak, best friends. He wanted to come back. He said there was unfinished business. I don't understand how he thought they were going to finish that business because all the players they let go. And so Vincent Kennedy says, when is they going to release Deuce Vaughn, who isn't doing anything for the team? Is it because his dad working the management? I have a funny feeling it is. They're probably going to give Deuce Vaughn maybe one more go at it. Zay Recruiter, Zeke will look good with the Lions. I say he will look good with the Lions if they can use him to his strengths. Because if you're going to try to use Zeke out of the backfield, it's just not going to work. Zeke doesn't have a first step anymore. He just doesn't. He does not have a first step anymore. It takes him a little bit more. It takes him a little bit longer to get going now. It does. It takes him a little bit longer to get going. So he's not going to be good for you out of the backfield. As a pure running back, he better be a part of your screen game, or he better be a part of your passing game. But whatever you do, you better get it to him in space so that he can make moves. Because if you don't get it to him in space, he can't make the first guy miss. Because he doesn't have that step anymore. And folks who love Zeke, they're making excuses like, well, he's not washed. I don't care if he's not washed. If you don't have that first step as a running back, now I can't use you. I can't use you if you don't have that first step. Because that's what you get running backs for. You get them for their first step, their ability to make the first man miss. That's what you're getting them for. Now, if he's already on my team, Well, now I'm going to use him to his strength. Okay, we already know what Zeke is not, so let's not try to use him out of the backfield unless it's a goal line issue or a 3rd and 1, maybe a 4th and 1. But other than that, okay, let's get him. Maybe we can get him in some sweeps. Maybe we can get him in the screen game. Maybe we can use him in the slot as a wide receiver, match him up on the linebacker, do things like that. But the way the Cowboys are trying to use him in Mike McCarthy going back to the very vanilla West Coast offense, he was ineffective 100%. And did you notice? Mike McCarthy went Texas Coast in the Cleveland game in the opener. Anybody notice how Zeke looked? Thought Zeke looked pretty fresh in that game. I was kind of like, when I saw him in that Cleveland game, I was like, oh, okay, wait, hold on a second. Zeke looked like he still got something, because they were using him in that Texas Coast. And notice how they were using him. Wide receiver, out of the backfield. I mean, they were doing those types of things with him. Safety valve, they were using that with him. But as time went on, as they got closer to being a more traditional running game with Rico, Zeke didn't fit that. Marlon said he wants to be a Shady McCoy. That's exactly what he's trying to be. Because at the end of the day, if he goes to a winning team, he may go to a team and not even get on the field. I really want to see if one of these playoff teams, I really want to see one of these playoff teams pick him up. I do think Jay Recruiter makes a good point, because if you look at the teams in the playoffs, Chiefs, no. Bills, no. Ravens, no. Texans, maybe. Maybe the Texans. It wouldn't be a Super Bowl chance. I mean, if I'm Zeke, does he just want to play in the playoffs? Because Texans are not getting to the Super Bowl. Tomlin could kick the tires on him out of respect. I could see Tomlin do it, but right now the Steelers aren't going to the Super Bowl. They're just not good enough. I don't think they're good enough at the quarterback position. I don't think they're good enough. And so bringing in Zeke, man, it just wouldn't work. I don't see the Chargers or the Broncos doing it. In the NFC, maybe the Buccaneers. But you know what? You know who? You never know. Commanders? Maybe Dan. Maybe Dan would bring him in. Maybe Dan would bring him in. Just out of pure love. Maybe Dan Quinn would bring him in. Maybe he could be effective with the Commanders. The one thing Zeke can do is block in the backfield. Maybe they would use him out of the backfield. The Vikings, no way, Jose. Don't see the Rams. Definitely don't see the Eagles. The Lions, I think the Lions may wait and see if someone else comes available. I just don't know if he fits the Lions, Jay Recruiter. And the reason why I don't think he fits the Lions, because if you look at how they were using their running backs, now they using them brothers as pure run. They are pure running backs. It's not that they're not using them in the screen games and stuff like that. But hey, man, they using them dudes as pure, unadulterated runners. Guys making guys miss and all kinds of things. I don't know if he'll fit them, but Ben seems to be a master play caller. He could probably use him. We're going to see if someone is going to pick Zeke up and maybe let him be a part of a Super Bowl run. But the reality is those teams are limited. The Super Bowl run teams are limited. The reality is in the AFC, we're looking at the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens. The Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens. That's the reality. In the NFC, we're looking at the Lions, the Eagles, And I would call the dark horse the Vikings. I would call that the dark horse. So I just don't see a Super Bowl run being with other than those 6 teams. And 4 of those 6 teams, they just have no use for him. Or I should say 5 of those 6 teams. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Vikings, the Eagles. They have no use for Zeke. And the Lions, anybody see the Lions last night? They look fine without a running back. I mean, they look fine. They look fine and look like they're making do with what they have. So I don't know if they're going to. And you think about what happens with these types of teams. They already got a lot of chemistry going. They're not bringing in a guy to disrupt that chemistry unless he's a true difference maker. I don't call Zeke a difference maker. Zeke is not the type of back now that you're going to bring into your team and he's going to tilt the games in your favor. And that's what people have to understand about Zeke. He's not that type of back anymore. Can he be productive? Yeah, if you manufacture the productivity. He's nowhere near. And I know this hurts these Zeke lovers' feelings. But that ain't Zeke no more. That ain't Zeke no more. And boy, this hurts me to say it, but it's true. Shannon Sharp said, as it applies to Cooper Rush, he's a jag. You'll see my video on this tonight. He's a JAG, a jag, just a guy. Boy, that hurts me to say it. Because when you look at this, boy, when you look at Zeke's, the way he came onto the Cowboys as a rookie, man, whew. Boy, he made us forget about DeMarco Murray real quick. But now Zeke is just a guy. And one of the issues with Zeke, I look at Derrick Henry's workout regimen. Year after year after year. Derrick Henry works out over here in Dallas. He has a home over here in Dallas area. All you have to do is watch this man's videos. And you can clearly see why. He is still, at his age, one of the most dominant running backs in the league. I would say he's the most dominant. But Saquon Barkley said, nope, I'm the most dominant. I mean, Saquon Barkley. I mean, I want y'all to think about how crazy this is. Derrick Henry is 30 years old. And if I'm not mistaken, they're saying Zeke is 29 years old. Derrick Henry don't look 30 years old. Zeke actually looks 32, 33 years old. And the reason being is that Derrick Henry spends a tremendous amount of time on his body. The way he eats, the way he trains in the offseason, what he drinks, everything he puts in, and I mean everything. You don't hear about him on smoking the ganja and stuff. Derrick Henry is different. He's different. And that's why at 30 years of age, what he is doing is phenomenal in these days and times. Yeah, he's a physical specimen. I mean, the guy's 6'3", 247. But you have to understand something. People don't understand. Even when you take steroids. My son is really huge. But it's all natural. And people are always asking him if he's on steroids. And he's like, no, I mean, of course, we know he's not on steroids. But the issue is, even a person who takes steroids, we were having this discussion one day, And people think if you just take steroids, you automatically get big. No, you still have to work out to get big on steroids. And I'm saying all of that because Derrick Henry is not on steroids. But just because he's a physical specimen, it doesn't automatically make him a dominant back. The thing that I like about Derrick Henry, he works at it hard. And I mean, he works at it hard. Man, this dude is like pushing and picking up and knocking over appliances and huge chains on bars and picking up crazy stuff. I mean, Derrick Henry, y'all, I'm telling you, this dude is a physical specimen, not because he's just naturally big genetically, but because he works hard at it. When's the last time you saw an Ezekiel Elliott workout video other than when he went to, what was it, Cabo, when he was holding out, working out with Tomlin, I think it was LaDainian Tomlinson or Eric Dickerson, running in the sand and running up hills? It's the only time I've seen a Zeke workout. I see Derrick Henry's year after year. Year after year after year. And when you look at his workout, you understand why Derrick Henry at 30 years old, I want y'all to let this sink in. Zeke is 29. Christian McCaffrey is 28. Saquon Barkley is 27. And Derrick Henry is 30 years old. And if Saquon Barkley wasn't just a home run hitter, Derrick Henry right now, Derrick Henry would be the number one back in the NFL. That's crazy, man. And I'm saying all of that because Zeke doesn't take care of his body like that. He doesn't take care of his body like that. Zeke is 29 years of age. Zeke, if he wants to still work in this league, and I don't know if you can do this at his age, because I think that in order to be in top tier shape, 29, 30, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, that's something that you have to, it has to be a habit. It has to be something that you've been doing over the years to where it's cumulative. Derrick Henry, the reason why he's in such good shape, it's cumulative. He's been doing it. He didn't just start doing it. He's been doing it. This is one of the things that I like about LeBron James, even though there's been some questions about him and some things that he does. But LeBron James spends about $1 million a year on his body. Well, you have to if you're going to play in your 40s and play as good as he plays in his 40s. That's a cumulative effect. Tom Brady, there's a reason why Tom played until his 40s. That was a cumulative effect. Tom was working on his body year after year after year after year. TB12, he was doing that year after year after year after year. I just don't hear about these things with Ezekiel Elliott. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Zeke is asking for the release because he's hoping. I'm laughing because Marlon Brando said he want to be a Shady McCoy. Well, that's pretty much what he'll be if one of these teams puts him on there. Other than maybe the Detroit Lions, of whom Ben Johnson would probably figure out a way to use him. Cowboys hater herder. I said the same thing. Zeke should have never been brought back. And I think a part of their early woes, Cowboys hater herder, I think a part of their early woes was Mike McCarthy's disapproval of Zeke. His disapproval of Zeke. And he didn't want to run Zeke. I think we were watching Mike McCarthy and Jerry war against each other about Zeke. Vincent says Zeke didn't have a chance to see what he could do and will do better somewhere else. I don't know, man, Vincent. I don't know, man. I say this. Whoever brings him in, they're going to have to understand what he is. He's not a great runner of the ball anymore. He doesn't have the first step anymore. He doesn't even have that home run hitter burst. He doesn't have that anymore. So if you bring him in, you're basically saying, I'm going to create or I'm going to use a roster spot on a running back who I actually can't use as a running back in that sense. Like, I can't use him really as a pure runner. I am actually going to have to use him in the screen games, in the pass games. And a lot of teams already have players designated for that. I'm going to be shocked. I am going to literally be shocked if one of these contenders pick him up. I'll be shocked. What's going on, Philly D? He says, yes, sir. He says, Happy New Year to all. Appreciate you on the good content. Yeah, man, we got a lot. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to it today. We got a lot to cover. We're going to look at some Mike McCarthy stuff now. Boy, I'm going to tell y'all something, boy. People like me. Hold on, let me read some more comments before I say, Rudy Ogwin. He said, I will not miss Zeke. Yeah, I won't either. I just don't think they should have brought him back. I don't. Dominique said, Zeke's dad said the same thing. Question is, why he waited until recently to request out? I don't understand it. Nisi said, if he goes to the Commanders, I'm taking a ride down 95 to DC. DC, I'm telling you. I wouldn't be shocked if Dan brought him in. I wouldn't be shocked if Dan brought him in. I wouldn't. I would not be shocked if Dan brought him in. Because Zeke is very good at blocking out of the backfield. Very good at blocking. And looking at the Commanders, it looks like they could use some help as in blocking sometime for Daniel Jones. He's killing it running the ball. But it seems like their old line may not be just absolutely, of course, where it needs to be. Zeke maybe can work in there. But whoever brings him in, they need to unequivocally understand what he is. Just understand what he is, and he'll be fine. But if you want to use him as a pure runner, you're going to be disappointed. Oh, Gabe, yes, sir. I'm going to play that. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I have that on the agenda with Micah Parsons. I didn't want to talk about Micah Parsons this week because if you tell the truth about Micah Parsons, people think you don't like Micah Parsons. So I just wasn't going to talk about Micah Parsons this week. I was just going to leave the whole conversation alone and, just let this last game play out and be done with it. But now it's starting to make the run, it's making its way around the media. And I'm going to show us what he said for all of you who haven't seen it. I don't know what to say, Gabe. We're going to play it and we'll break it down. Rudy said it's time for Dallas to build a better team for next year. Yes, for sure. The Lions don't need Zeke. Exactly. What is he going to do? That's what I'm saying. I would be shocked if the Lions brought him in because when you look at how their two running backs play and were playing, they use them as pure runners, home run hitters. Those guys aren't picking up 1 and 2. They're home run hitters. They're hitting you for 10, 15. They tearing it up out there with their running backs. Jay Recruiter, the question is not if they know how to use him. The question is, do they want to use him? Because if the Lions have someone already, and let's think about the Lions last night against the San Francisco 49ers. Y'all going to have to tell me, because even with their decimated defense and missing one of the running backs. Y'all got to tell me what they need, because I don't think they need Zeke. I don't think they need Zeke. What would be the point? Detroit don't need Zeke. The teams that could probably use Zeke are really not contenders. I mean, let's be honest. They're not contenders. Houston's not a contender. The Commanders, Dan Quinn. I will not be mad if he gets coach of the year. But I think even Dan Quinn knows he's not there yet. But boy, I'm telling you, the NFC East has been put on alert. It will no longer be the Cowboys and the Eagles anymore. It is now going to be the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Commanders. Because the Commanders are one season away, man. They are one season away from being a juggernaut. Cowboy hater Herder said Zeke is slow as, he said he's as slow as F. Get going in space. Lord have mercy. Cowboys, I'm just saying, you got to get him in space because his first step ain't fast enough. Zeke got to get his speed going. And a lot of people just not going to use that. They're just not going to use that. And Cowboys ain't heard her. I'm telling you, early in the season, me and Niecy was talking about this. It was funny because I think that Mike McCarthy was showing Jerry his disapproval of Ezekiel Elliott in how he was using him. Mike said early on, I don't like running back by committee, but that's what we're doing. Oh, that's what we're doing. I noticed that when it's what we're doing, that's Mike McCarthy's code word for saying Jerry said. When y'all catch Mike. When Mike says, in my opinion, that's him. When he says, what I believe, I know, that's Mike. Early in the season, I kept trying to figure out who was the we Mike was talking about. Mike kept talking about, we gotta stick with the run. I was like, who is he talking about? Who is he talking about when he says we? We gotta run the ball. We gotta control the, we. Who is the we? Who are the we, man? And then I said, oh, wait a minute. When Mike is saying we, he talking about Jerry. And what he telling Jerry and what Jerry telling him. But when he says that's Mike differentiating himself saying, well, I didn't want to do this. And he said early on, I don't like running back by committee. That was him saying I didn't want Zeke Elliott in the running game. Chanel said, I would like Robert Saleh and Steve Wilkes as a CEO in DC. Got news for us. I think that Mike Zimmer, based on how he's kind of acting right now, I'm not going to be surprised if Mike Zimmer is not back next year. I've been saying this already. I think Jerry wants Al Harris to be the DC. I think Jerry Jones wants Al Harris to be the DC. He likes Al Harris. Jerry likes Al Harris, I'm telling you. Philly D, Zeke had a great few years but lost his step quick. And you know why, Philly D? Again, somebody tell me, when have you ever heard anybody in this league talking about Ezekiel Elliott's work ethic? I've heard nobody. I've heard nobody talk about it. I've seen no videos, not how I've seen the Derrick Henrys, how I've seen the Saquon Barkleys. I haven't seen any of that stuff from Zeke. As a running back in this league, man, you got to really take care of your body. You really do. Because if not, you're not going to last. Gabe said, I forgot who said it. Who said that when Zeke runs, it's 2 yards, a cloud of dust like the Tasmanian devil. Yeah, man, he's just not quite there no more. Kevin Howard, what's going on? Happy New Year's. Cowboy Hater heard he said Zeke couldn't do anything here, but he'll get it done somewhere else, like in New England. Yeah, man. And you know what? He was productive in New England. But we got to understand, Cowboys Hater Herder, because I understand exactly what you're saying. They wasn't a contender, though. They were not a contender. And I just don't think anybody's going to want, I'm going to be shocked if one of these teams pick up Zeke. J.D. Scott said, Zeke wants to be in a setting where he feels like he belongs to be used and fit in. Now, Janie, you know why he feels like that? Let me tell you why he feels like that. Because he's a Dallas Cowboy. When I tell y'all the story that I heard today, you're going to understand exactly what I'm talking about. Jerry Jones makes his players feel entitled. He rips all the dog out of them. Jerry rips it out of them. Some of these players come here with dog in them. Jerry rips it out. Because Jerry puts his stars on a pedestal. And his stars don't answer to the coach. His stars answer to Jerry. Zeke proved it this season. Zeke went to Jerry about not playing. And the next game, we saw Zeke starting against the Detroit Lions. And I told y'all, and no one believed it, Rico Dowdle at that during that San Francisco game, he was not sick. All this stuff we're watching right now, he was not sick. They threw meritocracy in the trash after Rico Dowdle had that great game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They threw meritocracy in the trash because Zeke complained, and they made Zeke the starter against the Detroit Lions. And then I watched YouTuber after YouTuber make excuses for why Zeke couldn't run against the Detroit Lions. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault because he didn't bring himself back. But the reality is Zeke he's not better than Rico Dowdle. He's not. Zeke's not better than Rico Dowdle. And even I'm saying, someone who's been beating the drum for Rico Dowdle, okay, I've seen exactly what Rico Dowdle is now. Rico Dowdle got 1,000 yards for the Dallas Cowboys. If I'm not mistaken, he's the first undrafted rookie to get 1,000 yards for the Cowboys. Okay, now we know what Rico Dowdle is. And this is without them letting him run the ball 25, 30 times a game. This is without Rico Dowdle starting some of those games. So this is what we know now. Rico Dowdle can run the doggone ball. But he is, to me, the 2 in the 1-2 punch. Because the thing that I didn't see from him, that I did see from Zeke early on, and what I see in these superstar running backs, you know what they have the ability to do? Bump their head on the goalpost. They have the ability to bump their head on the goalpost. That once or twice a game, they're going to break one and it's off to the races. Didn't see that from from Rico all season long. And I'm saying all that to say, and Zeke was not better than him. That's why I said he should have never been brought back. And he should have never been in the conversation of running for this team. I think Jerry should have let Zeke go somewhere else. He should have let Zeke go somewhere else. But this is why I know Jerry absolutely loves Zeke. He does. He loves Zeke, and that's why he brought him back. And I can tell y'all this. It hurt him to let him go. It hurt him to let him go. Miss Matrix said, hey, what's going on, Miss Matrix? She said, just got here, and y'all telling me Zeke released today. Yep. They releasing him. He asked to be released, though, Miss Matrix. He asked to be released. He's hoping to get on one of these contenders. So we're going to see if he clears waivers. Cowboys hater Hunter said, and I'm sure Zeke's going to he's going to clear. There's no doubt to me he's going to clear waivers. Passed on Henry and Barkley and got Zeke. Cowboy hater Hunter. And not just Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. They passed on all kinds of running backs they had the opportunity to get. I mean, there was a litany of running backs the Cowboys could have gotten. They passed on. I mean, the Aaron Jones thing. He goes to Minnesota. Look at Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is killing it. He's killing it. Other running backs, I think they could have got Nick Chubb. I mean, Cowboys had opportunities to get running backs better than Zeke. They just didn't want to. Jerry loves Zeke. He does. He loves his players. Real fans said need to at least consider McCarthy. He may not be the best coach, but he's decent when he gets out of his own way. Plenty of coaches are much worse. May not get someone better. I think we can do better. I think we can do better than McCarthy. I'm telling y'all, if McCarthy comes back, just get ready. It is going to be more of the same. It's going to be more of the same. You're going to beat the bad teams. You'll beat the average teams. You'll beat the teetering average to good teams. But you're not going to beat the teams that define your season. You're not going to beat them. You're not going to beat. We better make some improvements because we're not going to be beating, even though Dak has owned the Philadelphia Eagles. I would have loved to have seen Dak against these Philadelphia Eagles. And I have no doubt that Dak would have rose to the occasion, but I would have loved to see if he could beat these Philadelphia Eagles, especially twice. And what the Washington Commanders are going to look like next year. Boy, I'm telling y'all, Willie T, if he get in the chat, Willie T, I'm not a Washington Commanders fan nor a Philadelphia fan. I'm just telling you the truth. Dan Quinn has been entrusted with the Washington Commanders franchise. He's been entrusted. And the one thing that man can do, he knows how to build a culture. Now, he knows how to build championship teams because he's been on championship teams. He's been on Super Bowl teams. We forget sometimes that he went to the Super Bowl with Atlanta. We forget, if I'm not mistaken, he was the DC with the Seattle Seahawks and the Legion of Boom. I think Jerry was trying to keep Dan on the squad. I think Jerry was trying to keep Dan here because I think Jerry wanted Dan to be the heir apparent. I think that's what he was doing. But Dan couldn't deal with the fact that Jerry doesn't want to play in free agency. Jerry doesn't want to make trades. I'm telling y'all, Jerry Jones absolutely PO'd Dan Quinn when he didn't get Bobby Wagner. He PO'd him. And that's one of the reasons now. That's why when Dan left here, all those players that Jerry released, Dan said, I'll take him. And he's not done. I'm telling y'all, Dan Quinn is not done. If we are not careful, watch what Dan Quinn will do next year. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, Dan Quinn will have Jordan Lewis. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, Dan Quinn will have Kevontae Turpin. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, Dan Quinn will have Odiggy Zua. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, keep on playing. Watch what I tell you. Dan Quinn will have D-Law. If we don't do, and I already know we're not bringing D-Law back. Watch this. We keep playing. Zach Martin will be blocking for Jaden Daniels next year. And I know we're not bringing Zach Martin back. Dan Quinn has been entrusted with the Commanders. And Dan Quinn, you just look at how he's moving. Dan Quinn. Man, I got so many videos coming out. I don't know somebody was reporting that the Washington Commanders are going to lay down for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to spoil the video that I got coming out in the next couple of days. I'm going to save it towards the end of the week. Dan Quinn said he ain't laying down for the Cowboys. Dan Quinn said, no, we're not laying down for the Cowboys. We want to keep the number 6 seed. It's important. Dan Quinn is genius. They get that number 6 seed. That means they don't have to play the Philadelphia Eagles. Immediately after playing them just last week, they don't have to open up the wild card weekend playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Instead, they can get the Los Angeles Rams. And Dan, in his mind, is thinking, we can beat the Rams. The Eagles will be a tough out for us. Yeah, we beat them the second time. I mean, we beat them. Yeah, we beat them. We beat them the second time we played them. But Dan understands something. Lightning would have to strike twice. You knocked Jalen Hurts out the game. You gonna knock him out the game twice? Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. Not to mention they scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. The Commanders did. Highly unlikely again. Dan Quinn said they're coming out to beat the brakes off the Cowboys. He said they're coming out to beat them. It's going to be an exciting game. I'm ready. Boy, I'm so ready to see this game. I'm excited to see this game. But I'm going to wrap up the Zeke stuff. I'm going to read a couple more comments. I'm going to wrap up the Zeke stuff. And let me go back to what Janie said. I think this is very unique what she said. She said he wants to be somewhere where he belongs. And here is going to be the problem, Janie, because I feel exactly what you're saying. The NFL is about winning. And the only way you're going to feel like you belong is you're going to have to come and contribute to the team. It's going to be hard to feel like you belong anywhere if you're not playing. And the question is, if someone picks him up, well, how much will he play? This is fascinating to me. I want to see what happens. I know he's going to clear waivers, and yeah, he's going to clear waivers. But I want to see if anyone gets him. And the cruel reality is no one may pick Zeke up. I mean, I will not be surprised if no one picks him up. I mean, why? I mean, what do they really need him for? I could see Dan doing it because Dan likes him. I'm sure Dan likes him. Dan may look at his team and go, hey, you know what? We can get Zeke on the cheap. We can get Zeke on the cheap. So maybe we can bring him in and use him in this way right here, just in this particular fashion. Maybe Dan will bring him in. But I don't see, Jay Recruiter, I appreciate what you said. Boy, I just can't see Detroit bringing him in, especially how they looked last night. What they need Zeke for? P-Funk, Jerry would never win another Super Bowl. Nope. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough for him to do it. But I'm going to stick to what I said, P-Funk. 2026, I believe the Cowboys get the chip. Andre said, I'm glad Zeke is gone. He's not the same. I said 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. He didn't even. You thought he was going to get 1,000 yards? Yeah. Man. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. You said he didn't even get that. No, he didn't even get close to that. Zeke going to be all alone in the room like Will Smith in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah, he is. Yeah, Zeke isn't the same like in his prime. And that's it. You know, that's the thing for real fan one. Suge said, Suge McKnight, what's going on? He said, I also believe that Zeke was told. Suge, I said that earlier. And I said that early in the season. Zeke was acting entitled. Zeke was acting like somebody told him something. Rather than, Zeke, we're going to bring you in, but you're going to have to earn the spot. No, somebody said, Zeke, this is what we're going to do when you bring you in, when we bring you in. You're going to be our short yardage back. You're going to be our goal line back. You're going to be our screen back. I think he was told stuff like that. And when he stopped being told, and when he wasn't used in that manner, Zeke started acting out. I'm with you. He started acting out. Chanel, yeah, prehistoric McCarthy was trying to run Zeke on a 20 as I played under the number system in college. So a 20 ID halfback up behind the center. I'm telling you, people do not understand. One thing I've learned about Mike McCarthy, he's very hard-headed. He loves the West Coast. He loves it. He got Kellen Moore out of here. Creates a hybrid of the West Coast that fit Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has a career season only for Mike McCarthy to come out this year, run the Texas coast in the Cleveland game, and then goes to the vanilla West Coast offense. Why? Why did he do that? I have a theory. I just don't know if it's true. I think because of his lack of confidence in Dallas's offensive line, he figured the West Coast with the quick throws, all checkdowns, the quick throws would nullify their lack of pass blocking. It's the only excuse I can figure. Because he literally handicapped Dak Prescott. He literally handicapped him. Even though people don't understand, I say he handicapped him. People don't realize Dak Prescott was having a bad season by his standards. But Dak Prescott was actually chunking that ball around the yard too. Dak was actually chunking the ball around the yard. I mean, when you think about the amount of games that Dak played, Dak had 1,978 yards, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Dak was, you think about what happened with Cooper Rush when Cooper Rush got in. The defense started getting healthy. They changed up the offensive line. They started running the ball more and better. And so things seemed like they were turning around. It was the soft part of the schedule. I mean, there's no getting around it. It was a softer part of the schedule. Dak played in the teeth of the schedule. And then Rush comes in the soft part of the schedule. But Dak threw for 1,978 yards. Dak was basically on his way to around a 4,000-yard season again. He's on his way to about a 4,000-yard season. But Mike McCarthy went away from the Texas coast that he specifically put together for Dak Prescott He specifically put that together for Dak Prescott. Then he went away from it. And that began the problem for this team. It was a problem for this team. And so Mike with that vanilla, with that West Coast, I can't do it. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do it with that vanilla. I can't do it. I mean, it's not me. It's not my choice to make, but that West Coast offense, I can't do it. But I want to change gears. The Ezekiel Elliott conversation is pretty fascinating. Let me skip through a few of these. The real Daryl said the Cowboys did right by Zeke. That's why I said too. This wasn't a bad breakup. Jerry loves Zeke. I bet you Jerry didn't want to do this. Let him go and see if a playoff team will use him. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Chanel, when I saw him in the Cleveland game, when I saw him in that Cleveland game, Texas Coast, when I saw him in that Cleveland game, I said, okay, maybe Zeke will be okay. Chanel said the Texans run a different type of running scheme. He won't mesh well. Yeah, I just don't see why any team would pick him up. Because when you're talking about those top 6 teams, I'm sorry, the Lions are they look like a juggernaut last night. They looked like a juggernaut last night. They did. Nietzsche said they'll pick him up, but we'll make him sit. That's what Marlon Brando talking about. That Shady McCoy. That Shady McCoy treatment. Cowboys hate a hurdle. You better stop it. Those face piercings, slow it down. Stop it. Mixed with snow bunny low. Stop it. The 70s fans, the Eagles, no, they're not gonna fool. They're not gonna fool with Zeke. They loaded. The Eagles are loaded. They don't need Zeke. Cowboy, he started trying with a halter cut. Man, you killing me. You said a halter cut on the shirt. I knew it was a wrap. You killing me. Sammy's fan said the Chiefs may get Zeke. Man, I thought about it, 70s fan, but I could see Andy doing it out of respect. I just don't know if he'll play. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, Roger, that State Farm commercial is real, for sure. It is. Even though the commercial is fake, no, Derek be doing that kind of stuff for real. Tell your son to tell those people he's cornbread fed next time. Yeah, that's all it is. That's all it is. It's some genetics. Yep, that's it. I told you, Chanel, he never took care of his body. He didn't. Janie said, I've seen Henry and it's motivating. It is. Made me want to change how I do things in my workout. That dude, Derrick Henry. And y'all think about it. He 30. He 30 doing this stuff. Man. Derrick Henry, man, I'm telling you, I wonder if the Baltimore Ravens are going to let him play out that contract. Because I'll tell you this, if that joker hit if he hit the market again, man, if I'm the Cowboys, I'd get that joker next year. I don't care if he run half of what he run this year. I would still get Derrick Henry. I would still get Derrick Henry if Derrick Henry hit the market again. I'd get Derrick Henry at 31. I would. I don't think Derrick Henry going to fall off a cliff like some of these other running backs do. I think Derrick Henry will get to the stage to where Derrick Henry could be the 2 in your 1-2 punch. And boy, he'd be a heck of a 2, wouldn't he? Could you imagine having a rookie running back who was a home run hitter and having Derrick Henry? Boy, your run game would be off the chain game. Your run game would be off the chain with Derrick Henry with another running back because he's getting older. And I would say you'd want to maybe lessen his carries. He could even be the 1 in the 1-2. Man, you put Derrick Henry with another running back, man, Derrick Henry will be absolutely nasty. Want to change gears. The Zeke discussion is fascinating. It really is. It's fascinating. It's a very fascinating conversation. But I want to talk about Mike McCarthy. And then I'm going to transition to a story I was told. Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't told. I heard it on the radio today, and it just blew my mind. Brian Broaddus is on the radio today. Him and I'm not really familiar with all these other guys that be talking, but I'm very familiar with Brian Broaddus. Who is this talking with him? Maybe he'll say his name. I want to let you hear some of the stuff that Brian Broaddus is saying about the Cowboys. And the reason why I like some of the stuff Brian Broaddus says about the Cowboys, because if I'm not mistaken, he used to work in their scouting department. And he gives a lot of insight on the workings and the inner workings of the Cowboys. And I don't always agree with everything that he says, but I have to listen to it because I know he's coming from a football perspective. And so today they were asking him about a few topics, and he really didn't touch a lot on the Zeke thing, but it was what he said about Mike McCarthy. I want y'all to hear this from someone other than me. Because I say this stuff, and, people like, nobody. You ain't played no football. Okay, I ain't played football. But I can tell you what I see. I can tell you what the stats are showing. And Brian Broaddus does some of the same stuff, and he gives a lot of good insight on some of the stuff going on with the Cowboys. I want you to hear what he says. We're going to take it from the top and just let him talk, and we'll interrupt here and there and make some comments. We won't go all the way to the end, but I'm going to let you hear some things he says as he gets to the Mike McCarthy thing, because I think he's going to give you a great understanding of where I am on Mike McCarthy. And then I'm going to hit you with some other stuff about Mike McCarthy. Let's roll it. Hold on, let me get my sound together here.
Cowboys, where does he rank all time? Best running backs in Cowboys history, 877-881-1053. We have the Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus, in the saddle for the final time this year. Welcome to the G-Bag Nation, ladies and gentlemen. Lucius Alexander holding it down in the Pimp Cup. LA Live at 540. Carter Freeman running the fan cam, Twitch and YouTube. Zeke no longer a member of the Cowboys, and they're saying they're trying to get him on a playoff team. They release him, see if a playoff team picks him up, see if he can go on a run here. Maybe a team needs 3.1 a carry to get them over the hump. You never know when you're 3.1 yards per carry away from hoisting up a Lombardi. And now the 14 playoff teams have that opportunity, and I'm sure they're all just chomping at the bit trying to make sure he clears waivers. All right.
Sorry. The sarcasm of this dude is this dude is destroying Zeke. This dude is destroying Zeke, man. He said 3.1 yards per carry. He said maybe there are 14 playoff teams chomping at the bits. In case y'all didn't catch that, I know y'all did. This dude is clowning Zeke, man.
We talked obviously a lot about McCarthy, his status, 1 year, the 1 year deal this year, and now it expires. But Will McClay, who is the de facto GM to some extent, and the guy who's been running the drafts for the Cowboys for many years now, his deal also expires. And Bobby brought this up with Jerry earlier today. He was dancing around it per usual, but isn't that potentially even bigger? We talk about the head coach and Mike McCarthy. Of course, that's the headliner, but Will McClay having an opportunity to maybe go be a GM somewhere else. Is this the year that he finally says, you know what, I want the official title. I want to go be the man somewhere. He packs his bags out of town.
It's time to stop relying on Band-Aids
Right.
to your muscle.
I'm gonna get YouTube Premium one day. All right, let's get back.
Will might be listening, so he always hates what I say. I have the utmost respect for Will, by the way.
Everybody does, and the Cowboys only want to build their team through the draft, which is a fool's errand if you're trying to win a Super Bowl. But still, if you want to be respectable, you need a guy who's pulling the draft strings because you're not getting any free agency or trade strings pulled.
It's a unique job that he has. That the fact that he and we always talk about him being in the middle of the triangle with coaches on one side, scouts on the other, and the Joneses being on the top of the triangle, and he does a really nice job of navigating that. Because the scouts are mad at the coaches are mad at the Joneses are mad at the scouts and the coaches, and Will does a really great job of navigating all that and like getting everybody together and building consensus, and Will has done a really, really fine job. And Jerry has always said this, that Jerry wants to take the blame. He doesn't want anybody else in the organization to take the blame, because when it works, he wants to be able to take the credit. And I think Will has done a really nice job of the communications aspect. He's got a scouting staff that is very loyal to him. They're not going anywhere. Their continuity is strong there. But there also needs to be a time, I think, where Will McClay has to think about, do I need to go I want to go hire my own coach. I want to go hire all my own scouts. I want to hire my own, I want to be the guy. I want to build the team. I want this to be my roster.
And you've always talked about his son being in grade school and high school and him wanting to stay local because of that.
He had a very similar situation to where I had. And I'm just saying, from being in personnel and then getting a divorce and then having to be around for your child. You don't want to pick up and move, and had other opportunities when Bennett was really young. I mean, I was divorced when Bennett was, 3 years old. Now he's about to be 21. So there were opportunities I had, but I couldn't leave. I had to be around for him. And so I couldn't go take other jobs. I couldn't go on the road. So I had to do things. It got me into media, and I'm cool with that. Totally cool with that. But the things that Will was dealing with, his son, he was in a similar situation where he had to be around for his kid. And it was, he's well compensated with the Cowboys, but, as if he were to run a team, it would be his team. He would be the general manager of the team. And I think we're closer to that than we are of Will McClay staying around. I know he's very happy. I know he wants to get Jerry a championship if he can, but there also comes a point in time where you have to look at this and say, every time that I turn a job down, am I going to get another opportunity? And that's where that's what he has to weigh right now.
Is the son still in high school, or is he?
I think the son's in his final year. Yeah, getting closer to a graduation, I believe.
Okay, yeah. Well,
he was younger. He was younger than Bennett. I know that. So yeah, and Bennett's a junior now at Texas. So we ought to be getting close.
Okay,
So this is what people should really be talking about. Will McClay. If Will McClay leaves the Cowboys, what will they look like? What will the Cowboys look like without Will McClay? I think Brian Broaddus is making a powerful point. Will McClay may actually want to have his own team. Will McClay may want to be like Howie Roseman. He may want the title of GM and go to a team and build it. He may want to do that. Everybody's talking about Mike McCarthy. What if Will McClay leaves? You want to talk about will leave the Cowboys scrambling? What GM could the Cowboys bring in Because you heard what Brian Broader said that Will McClay is dealing with. He's fighting between a triangle. I mean, and Brian Broaddus, y'all better catch it. He dropped a megaton bomb. He said that Will McClay does not like to build his team through the draft. What if he does what Dan Quinn did? Because a lot of people don't realize something. Will McClay has been getting offers. It's not like Will McClay hasn't been getting offers. He's been getting offered jobs because teams out there, organizations out there, and I'm realizing something because Mike McCarthy said he's had an input in personnel. And I noticed that Brian Broader said scouts mad at the coach mad at the owner. Has anyone noticed how the last few drafts have looked? How the Cowboys used to be bona fide hitters in the draft? And the reality is, we haven't been knocking down the drafts like we used to. Who's to say that Will McClay don't get tired of that? Who's to say that Will McClay doesn't go somewhere and say, or someone offers him this year, and I'm not going to be surprised because people don't understand. This dude gets offered every year. He gets offered every year. Whether publicly or quietly, McClay is getting offered. McClay may leave. What if McClay leaves? You hear what Brian Broader said? Maybe he want to pick his own coach. You remember how I told you teams are built? Owner entrust the GM. Owner entrust the GM. The GM, he goes and gets the coach that he wants, and then he entrusts the coach. The GM works with the coach, works with the ownership. He works with the coach. What do you need? He gets the player. Here he is. Or maybe you could use this guy. Coach says yes, or sometimes he says no. GM still says use him. He then goes to the owner and says, sign him. This is why I think we should sign him. Get the deal done. Will McClay may want that. And Jay Recruiter, I don't think he's comfortable. I've heard this over and over, and I've lived this. And Brian Broaddus is telling us he's lived this. I've lived this. I turned down a job because of my children. I didn't want to move them in their last year of high school because I know how traumatizing that can be sometimes. Will McClay, his son has obviously been acclimated into the DFW school district and school districts for a long time. He didn't want to move him. But now he may be ready to move him. Now he may be ready to move him. It's the last year on his deal. I don't find it to be strange. It's the last year on his deal in the last year of his son's high school career. And I don't think he's playing football or anything, but it's his last year of high school. I think he made that deal like that on purpose. I think he made it like that on purpose. Lost in translation, what's going on? He said, I can see Will McClay going somewhere else. I was thinking the same thing. The Bears need somebody to help build a team. The Bears are in desperate need of somebody who can build a team. Carolina Panthers, not sure what their situation is. I mean, if you start looking at these teams, there are teams that could use Will McClay's services. They could. And I would not be surprised. Freddie, what's going on in the crib? Freddie said building a Super Bowl team solely through the draft may be crazy to some people, but it can be done. It's been done before it can be done. The problem is today's coaches are lazy. Freddie, it's hard. It's hard because you got to tell me the team that's done it. It's actually, I wouldn't even call it lazy. In actuality, to build a team solely through the draft is, for me, that's a person that I don't actually want building a team for me. You need veteran presence. You need a veteran presence on teams. And Jerry should know that's actually not the formula for winning. Because if you look at the 90s Cowboys, those were not solely young teams. They were young in skill positions. But they were also older in some key positions. You need a mixture of, and I'm not even talking about just necessarily age. But if you got an older player out there and he can come wreak havoc for your team, go get him. Absolutely go get him. But the problem is, your player development is kind of going out the window if you're going to keep doing the rookies. Your player development is going out the window. Why? Because you're not going to hit on all of them. You're not going to hit on everybody in the draft. This is why this doesn't work for the Cowboys, and they won't even acknowledge it. The reason why you don't build your team through the draft is because if you build your team through the draft, you're saying every one of my draft picks, they have to hit. They have to hit. And I'm always drafting for need. I'm always drafting for need. And I gotta hit. And if I don't hit in a position, and if I refuse to go into free agency, if I refuse to trade, then I'm stuck. I'm stuck. And I got to just live with the fact that I got a player and I got to see if he's going to develop. Tyler Guyton, anybody? This man almost got Dak Prescott killed. Tyler Guyton, anybody? We have to understand how insane it is. But we're used to this stuff. See, we get used to this stuff as a Dallas franchise fan base. Watch this. So you're entrusting your $231 million quarterback to Tyler Guyton, the left tackle. Let that sink in. That's what you're doing? That's what you're doing. You're trusting your $231 million quarterback to Terrence Steele. That's what you're doing. That's crazy. That's crazy. There are certain positions that you just flat out have to be on the lookout in free agency. If a top tier left tackle comes available, get him. Get him. Top tier lineman, get him. Stop being bullheaded. And I'm telling you, Brian Broaddus is saying exactly what I'm saying about Will McClay. He actually doesn't like the way Jerry. Now, you got to catch Will McClay. I started noticing he does this stuff, and he was doing it earlier in the season. You got to listen to Brian Broaddus. Brian Broaddus is telling you things because he's telling you things from conversations, not just he's guessing. Why do you think he says Will McClay doesn't like when he talks? Why wouldn't Will McClay like when you talk, Brian? Because Brian knows some inner workings. Brian, I guarantee y'all, Brian still has some inside people. He's been a part of the organization. And the Joneses tend to keep a lot of the same people. Brian isn't just saying something when he's saying that Will McClay. See, that's the megaton bomb people don't understand he dropped in that conversation. Will McClay doesn't like the way Jerry Jones builds teams. And one thing I try to teach my sons, Freddie, work smart, not hard. I could call my son in here and show you just how big he is. And if we're working on something that requires lifting sometimes, he the type of person, he's so strong, he say, hey, we got to bring a washing machine and put it in the crib. Ha ha, I got it. Pick it up. Pick it up. Bring it right into the crib. Oh, y'all wasting time. I don't want to get the appliance dolly and do all that wrapping it around the washing machine. It's the washing machine. It's not the dryer. The washing machine is light. I can easily pick this up. But why would you work hard when you can work smart? Less injury. No chance of hardly dropping the washing machine. Less wear and tear on your back. Easier to get up the driveway. Easier to get up steps. Easier to get over things in the walkway. Why work hard? Do we not understand why the Joneses lose out in trying to build through the draft? Why do we lose out? You know why? Again, because that means that every one of your picks, or at least 90% of your picks, they better hit. When you bring Tyler Guyton in, he better be a monster from the beginning. Because if Guyton is not a monster from the beginning, you're in trouble. Then anybody knows what happened to the Cowboys at left tackle? You're in trouble. If those players don't hit, you're in trouble. And so instead, if you're going to be smart, if you're going to be wise in how you build your team, you don't limit building your team in one way. You build your team all kinds of ways. One of the things I love about what the Cowboys do, they don't mind going to what, the UFL or the XFL or whatever it's called now. They got Kevontae Turpin out of there. They got Brandon Aubrey out of there. But I know why they did it. Their scouting department is very good at looking at some of those players. They bought in a couple of other ones. They didn't hit. But those players, they're very cheap. I'm telling you, to look at the deals that they got Brandon Aubrey on and Kevontae Turpin is highway robbery. But if you compare those contracts to what they were making in those leagues, or Brandon Aubrey, I think he was in one of those leagues. He was a soccer player. I'd have to go back and read the story. But I'm telling you, there's a reason why they got Brandon Aubrey at 29 years old on that contract that they got him on. But I promise you, he will not kick a field goal for the Cowboys again after this season on that contract. He will not be kicking for the Cowboys on that contract. So if you use that avenue, why not use free agency? And we make this bogus excuse. Well, we don't want to go in and get into bidding wars and spend all the money and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to get in a bidding war. You don't have to. You find the player that you want. And don't just find the player that you want. You go in there and you find not just a player that you want, you find a player that you need, and you say, no, I'm not just getting this guy to fill in a roster spot. I'm going in free agency, and I'm going to get a difference maker. And Brian Broaddus is going to talk about this, but in a different way in just a moment. But when you go in free agency, you're going to get a difference maker. Jerry Jones, 1995. You know what he did? He went and got a difference maker. How did the San Francisco 49ers beat us? They put Deion Sanders on Michael Irvin. You know what Jerry Jones said? I got you. If you can't beat them, join them. Jerry went and got Deion Sanders the next season. Because Deion Sanders is a difference maker. He's a difference maker. He's going to return punts. He's going to lock down wide receivers. He can step out there and play wide receiver. Deion Sanders used to shut down an entire side of the field. He's a difference maker. The Cowboys, they went in free agency. They got Charles Haley. You know why? He's a difference maker. And when teams go into free agency, it's amazing to me how the Joneses try to make everyone who does what they do in free agency, they try to make like they're the smartest people in the room. They say stuff like, well, the Super Bowl is not won in free agency. Have you looked at all the teams that keep going to the Super Bowl? Have you looked at the teams who keep getting almost to the dance? Have you looked at how these teams, every season, they all seem to go in free agency and they don't just get a player, they get a difference maker. They get a difference maker. And when you go into the trade deadline, you know what you're looking for? You look at your team and say, man, where do we really need help? And if you don't necessarily need to help, is there a difference maker? Is there a player that we can get that is going to tip the scales to our side? If you're only doing that in free agency, and I understand totally what you're saying, Freddie, but if you're only going to build your team through free agency, I'm going to beat your team every single time. I'm going to beat your team because you have cut off a valuable resource to yourself, and it's exactly what the Cowboys have done. Why in the world would you cut off such a valuable resource? Free agency and trading, man, that can be the difference in you going to the Super Bowl or not. That can be the difference. Why do we think that when we got Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott's whole career changed? Dak Prescott's entire career changed when they got Amari Cooper. He changed it. Because Amari Cooper is a flat-out route runner. He's got some of the best hands in the NFL. Amari Cooper with Dak Prescott was deadly. Absolutely deadly. You got to play all the way around. And Will McClay may be tired of this. Because he's not making the ultimate decisions. Listen to Brian. He's in a triangle. The Joneses, the scouts, the coach. I wonder when Mike McCarthy wanted to bring in Aaron Jones. I wonder who Will McClay wanted to bring in. Because I promise you, it wasn't Will McClay's idea to bring in Ezekiel Elliott. I promise you it wasn't his idea. I'd be willing to put 2 paychecks on it. I bet you it wasn't Will McClay's idea. You won't build your team through free agency, but you'll go get Ezekiel Elliott. Make it make sense. You won't build your team through trading, but you'll go get a quarterback in Trey Lance who you didn't actually need. And you go get Jonathan Mingo, who in actuality, with the draft coming up in April, you didn't really need. Make it all make sense. Will McClay may be tired of that stuff. Will McClay may absolutely be tired of that stuff, because I would be. I would be tired of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, his name gets attached to some of this stuff. His name gets attached to some of this stuff. Be Real Mind said Jerry hired Jimmy for Super Bowls, got rid of him, and started a marketing scheme. That was his plan all along. Once he got the team those Super Bowls, Jerry did exactly what business people do. Now you capitalize on it. And that's what Jerry has done. The problem is now he can't win no more because he can't build teams. And that's the part people keep missing. Jerry can't build teams. And I'm going to tell you a story in a moment after we listen to Brian Broaddus a little bit more. I'm going to tell you a story that's going to blow your mind. I've never heard this story before. I've never heard this story before. And when I heard this story today, I heard everything I needed to hear. I said, and there it is. I'm going to tell you the story in a moment. I want you to hear a little bit more of Brian Broaddus. Chanel said there's been no Super Bowl team that has been built from the draft alone, period. That's why I said, Chanel, you got to find it. You got to tell me what that team is. No team does that. It doesn't work. What Jerry is doing doesn't work. And he won't admit it. It doesn't work. Janie said Jerry Jones is going through the draft because he doesn't want to spend a lot of money. And he comes up with a line that they cannot afford free agency. And Janie, let's add insult to injury. He don't want to spend the money in free agency, but then he'll overpay. He'll overpay like he did CeeDee Lamb rather than paying him early. He'll overpay Dak Prescott 2 franchise tags, then a huge deal, then came back around and gave him another huge deal rather than looking at what they're doing and say, hey, man, let me go ahead and sign him early. Save myself about $15, $20 million. Now, right. Freddie said, tell me which team has done it, GOK. 1976 Dallas Super Bowl team, Preston Pearson, not acquired through the draft. They get him through a trade. They get him with a trade with Pitt. Yeah, but see, you're talking about that era. I'm talking about this era. This era is the one I'm talking about. Because this is the era that they've struggled in. You're talking about non-salary cap eras. A lot of teams built dynasties back in those days. You're not going to find in today's era, you're going to be hard-pressed to find multiple dynasties. I want y'all to think about the dynasties that were in the 70s. I can just think off the top of my head. Pittsburgh Steelers, dynasty. Dallas Cowboys, dynasty. Denver Broncos, dynasty. I mean, Washington Redskins, you start getting into some of the 80s and the 90s, the 80s. Washington Redskins, a lot of people don't realize it, dynasty. Teams could build dynasties in the non-salary cap eras. And what in actuality, they didn't build their teams through the draft. They developed players. They player developed. Quarterbacks didn't come in playing immediately. Quarterbacks sat down, 2-3 years? Players developed. They put players behind players. They were not concerned with a person coming in as a rookie playing. They developed them. That's how you build dynasties. You build your front line of players, and then you draft players behind them. You let them sit behind them, and then when they get old, it's time for them to go, you move that player up. Then you get a player behind them. That's what they did in the 70s. That's what they did in the 80s. That's what they did in the 90s. But when Jerry, who is one of the architects of the salary cap, when the salary cap came in, guess what happened? The dynasties minimized. The Dallas Cowboys, in actuality, is the last dynasty of the non-salary cap era. And they did it in style, and they went out with a bang. They were all about free agents. They were all about free agents. That Herschel Walker trade, they did it through the draft, they did it through free agency, and they did it through trading. And they spent the money. They did it in all 3 phases. All three phases. They were the last dynasty of the salary cap era, the Dallas Cowboys. And I believe that they hadn't brought that salary cap era in, the Dallas Cowboys of the 90s, and they would have kept Jimmy for longer than 4 or 5 years they kept Jimmy? If they keep Jimmy for 10 years, I believe the Cowboys get 5 or 6 Super Bowls. Easy. Absolutely easy. Troy, Emmett, Michael Irvin, that O-line and they would have kept adding players, as players fell off, they'd have kept adding players and the coaching wouldn't have fell off like it did with Barry Switzer and beyond, I believe the Cowboys get 5 or 6. But they were the last dynasty of the non-salary cap era. In the salary cap era, teams don't build teams. It's not that they don't build teams through the draft. They don't build teams through the draft only. The salary cap era actually made free agency even more important. Even more important. It made trading even more important. The NFL has added so many things as in trying to make sure they get their part of the money. The way they acquire players now, if you're not playing in free agency, man, you're not playing. I mean, really, you're not playing to win. If you're not playing in free agency, if you're not in the trade game, you're not playing to win. And that's the facts. To build a team through the draft, it's going to require patience and it's going to require luck. Because look at what happened to the Cowboys this year. It's the epitome of that formula being broken. We decided to go with a whole bunch of rookies and a whole bunch of young guys we drafted. If you look at the team as it's currently constructed, guess what we're playing with? All draft picks. That's all we're playing with. We're literally playing with draft picks. The older players, the D-Laws, the Zach Martins, they're gone. So what we're left with is our draft picks. You see how they're faring against the good teams? They can't beat the good teams, period. End of story. They can't beat them. Grown men. This is what I love about this league. You young and you playing against grown men play different than little kids. Grown men play different than young men coming out of college. Young men coming out of college aren't used to these grown men. They're not used to it. A lot of folk don't realize guys be playing in college with guys who don't even plan on they don't even plan on playing football. They're playing next to a lawyer. Now, the skill positions, those guys, a lot of them plan on going to the pros, some of the bigger guys online, but there are also guys who don't plan on going to the pros. When you come to the league, everybody's a pro. And you're playing grown men. You're playing grown men in the prime of their physicality. You can't have all young guys trying to win. You better get ready if you do. They're going to get hurt. They're going to get hurt. They're younger. They're going to get hurt. I promise you, they're going to get hurt. And if they don't get hurt, they're going to get somebody else hurt as they're learning in the process. This is what we've been watching with the Cowboys. And the issue is, I think this team is going to be good. I think they're learning some things. They'll be good. But guess what? We're not even going to keep all of them. And so we're going to have to keep this vicious cycle again of building through the draft. And now, guess what we got to do next year? When we draft, whoever we draft, guess what? They got to hit immediately. The running back got to hit immediately, which Rico has bought us some, but Rico may not be here next year. Guess what? He's up for a contract. The Cowboys may say, no, we're not going to keep Rico. So if you replace Rico, he got to hit. The second wide receiver that you go in the draft and get. You got CeeDee Lamb, but CeeDee Lamb, we're already knowing. They need someone other than CeeDee Lamb. The second wide receiver they pick up in the draft, guess what? He got to hit. If they get a cornerback, guess what? He got to hit. They get a linebacker, guess what? He got to hit. That's what you want to avoid. You want to bring guys in from the draft and say, okay, can we work them in gradually? Can we use them as the depth? Can we get them acclimated to being a pro? And then maybe in 2 years, with a mixture of draft picks, free agents, veteran guys, we get out of free agency, veterans that we trade, that you get your team kind of built up like that. This team is going to have a hard time winning because of the way this team is currently constructed. Jerry and Stephen Jones, they better get busy in free agency. They better this year. Because if not, you're going to be in the same vicious wash cycle. Your picks better hit or you're done. Michelle said putting pressure on young players not right. Nope. Plus, once they develop, the Joneses don't want to pay them, so they walk and play good for another team. It's a vicious cycle. And this is why no one else plays that game. It don't make sense. It don't make sense, especially in this era. Lost in translation. That's insane to trust your quarterback to those sandwich bread. Man, I'm telling you, it's crazy. We literally went in the draft. We paid a quarterback $231 million and put him between two Ritz crackers and said, okay, now do your job. Crazy work. Can't build your teams like that. It's too hard. It's too hard. Michelle said, Brian brought it. He does. You know what he does? And this is why Will McClay, Michelle, this is why Will McClay be mad when Brian Broaddus is talking. Because Brian Broaddus is not just talking like I'm talking. I'm reading things and talking and looking and digging and looking and digging, and I can come up with some conclusions. Brian Broaddus is talking based on inside information. I mean, he's dropping megaton bombs. When he said Will McClay don't like to build teams like that, man, I bet you Will McClay heard that. Will McClay's just went. That's personal information. To say what someone likes whom you truly know is not a guess, it's personal information. That's why Mike McCarthy came out against Dak Prescott when Dak Prescott said, I want to see Mike McCarthy brought back and do things his way. And then Mike, I don't know what Dak talk. I don't know what he's talking about. I've had more control here than I had in the past in Green Bay. Stop it. Stop it, Mike. But Mike knows that Dak was speaking based on inside information that he got from Mike McCarthy. And that's why Will McClay, he don't like when Brian Broaddus is talking, because he knows this dude is talking based on inside information. Robert M., building a team strictly through draft is foolishness. Yeah, this is in the 70s. It's not. That was a different time. No salary cap. We had multiple dynasties. Multiple. In this salary cap era, have you noticed? There's typically one dynasty per decade. There's one dynasty per decade. And let me correct myself on the 90s. A lot of folks don't give the Buffalo Bills credit. The doggone Buffalo Bills were a dynasty too. They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. I mean, they got beat all 4 of them. But they had a dynasty. But after that salary cap era, you notice what started happening? You were getting maybe one dynasty per decade, and you would get teams, and we're still seeing it, where some team will come out of nowhere, or there'll be a bad team. They get good positions in the draft. They make some changes at the coaches. They make some changes maybe with the GM. They get the quarterback. They just go and get players in the draft and free agency, because now they got all this salary cap. It takes time for them to build it all up. They got to lose enough to get the draft positions, lose enough, get from under salaries, and then they got all the salary cap space. Then they can go out and play in free agency and do all these different things. And then you will see where some team comes out of nowhere and disrupts a dynasty. We've been seeing it happen. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, anybody? Los Angeles Rams, anybody? We might be about to see it again. Detroit Lions, anybody? The Detroit Lions is a team that lost. They went in the draft. They went in free agency. They made some trades. They had a whole lot of draft capital, whole bunch of salary cap money. And now they have put all of that to use in all those 3 phases. Look at them now. They may disrupt the current dynasty because the only current dynasty we have right now is who? Kansas City Chiefs. They're the current dynasty. The last dynasty we had before the Kansas City Chiefs, New England Patriots. We just don't have the multiple dynasties anymore because the salary cap era has brought in this situation to where now it's harder to build. It's harder to build through the draft. Why? Because you don't have unlimited money to just let players sit. This is why you don't see people doing what these teams used to do. Very few teams are doing this. You don't see teams going and get a number 1 draft pick quarterback and say, hey, you're going to sit down for 3 years. No. If you're on a team and they draft a quarterback in the first round, you might as well go ahead and start packing up your locker. Go ahead and have it on. Just go ahead and pack it up and be ready to go at the end of the season because they're not letting no superstar quarterback in the first round sit up under you or behind you for 2-3 years. They're not doing it because what they want to do is get that quarterback on a rookie deal or get him in his rookie deal and then put players around him from the draft, from free agency, and from trading. Man, it's a different time. And this is why the Joneses are not going to, they're not going to win if they don't change how they think in this era. This is not the pre-salary cap era. You can't build through the draft and just sit on players and sit on players and sit on players. They get to a certain point, it's time to hit free agency. Then you got to decide on who you're going to keep. And so you just keep on building and keep on building. Somewhere in there, you got to go get somebody and say, hey, man, let's get some free agents to kind of shore this up. Some guys that come in and make immediate impact. Guys who can come in and they got a history of being successful at the position, and we know they can hold it down, and we don't have to worry about it for 2 or 3 years. Or if I'm good, let me go in here and get a difference maker. Cowboys haven't done that in years. Chanel said they let Dak get sacked up and hurt with guy that left tackle and still at right tackle. They wanted Dak to struggle as they released that steel never healed from his injury and Guyton's natural college position at right tackle. It's one of the worst mistakes this team made this year, which I think they tried to do it because I think they're trying to do it again. They're going to try to build from the draft. But they're going to find out that if they don't do something in free agency, it's going to be the same thing again. It's going to be the same thing again. Philly said when Dallas won, had the same team compete every, look like 5 to 6 teams. 96 with revenue sharing thanks to Jerry Jones is a different league, but Jerry wants that control that doesn't work today's. He's the architect, Philly D. Jerry's the architect. Jerry worked out deals to start helping the NFL get TV revenue money, to start getting sponsorship money, to get all of these different deals that we're watching the NFL have today. And Jerry is working on even more things. And this is why the NFL loves Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones implemented that salary cap because he wanted to make sure that they were going to get the money and they not all go to the players. Freddie says 79 Dallas Cowboys went to the Super Bowl with only 2 players not acquired through the draft, Preston Pearson and Jackie Smith. It's not the 70s no more. That's the problem. It's not the 70s no more. You're just not building teams like that. No one's building teams like that anymore. It's not possible. Philly said when Dallas won, half the league owners were broke. Boy, you better stop. Eagles players worked out at Planet Fitness. Boy, you better stop. You better stop. Nisa said Will knows Brian is a guy. That's why he told him this, so he can get out. Playing the Joneses game, using the media. That doggone Brian Broaddus be speaking out of inside knowledge. Football is football. No, I agree with you. Football is football. But this is the difference, Freddie. The business ain't the same, bro. The business is not the same. The business has actually changed football. The NFL doesn't even call itself a sports league. It calls itself an entertainment league. The business has changed football. Just look at how the league is moving. Even the gambling has changed football. They can tell me anything they want to. There's a little bit more going on when money gets involved. When you start talking about gambling money getting involved. This league has changed. It's not just football any longer. When we used to watch football back in the 70s, football was kind of football then. But when Jerry Jones entered the arena, football became a business. It became a business. Folks didn't watch football the way they do now. Man, I can remember football being on and nobody was watching it. Wasn't even no big deal. Folks wouldn't dare miss church for football back in the day. Football, I wish you would put football on a Thursday. Man, would nobody watch that? Football back in the day was a die-hard fan sport. Not today. The women, the children, the men, everybody like football now. Everybody like football. And I give Jerry Jones a whole lot of credit. He's a part of the reason why. Jerry Jones is missing what he did with the Cowboys. The Cowboys, when Jerry took over the team, it was on a 14-year drought. I think the last Super Bowl they won was either 78 or 79. They won a 14-year drought, I think it was. Jerry buys the team. They already have the moniker of America's team. They're already popular. But the NFL was not as popular. People were not watching football like that. Jerry comes in. Jerry buys the Cowboys. And all of a sudden, football really starts gaining a lot of steam. The 49ers. People are looking at the 49ers and how good those teams were. They're looking at the Dallas Cowboys. They just came out of nowhere, went from 1-15 to all of a sudden they're contending and winning Super Bowls. I mean, the league got hot, man. Pittsburgh Steelers and Cowboys, classic Super Bowl clash from the 70s and the 80s. Cowboys finally get that first Super Bowl win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, Jerry Jones was instrumental in helping this league get to a whole nother level. Jerry Jones signed with the Pepsi deals, the Pizza Hut deals. Jerry Jones took the flamboyancy of one Deion Sanders and commercialized it. Had Deion Sanders on all kinds of commercials. I mean, Jerry, I'm telling y'all, man, what Jerry did with the Cowboys and Jimmy Johnson in 5 short years is nothing short of phenomenal. That's the very reason why he's in the Hall of Fame. It's nothing short of phenomenal. But the problem is, Jerry created a game through business to where he could no longer win on the field. Let that sink in. He's winning on the business side now, but he's not winning on the field. But when he came in, he knew, watch this, he couldn't win on the business side unless he first won on the field. Jerry took America's team to a whole nother level. People hated what he did to Tom Landry. But winning cures all. He go and get Jerry Jones. He went and got Jimmy Johnson. A lot of folk like Jimmy Johnson. Herschel Walker trade. Put players around Troy Aikman. Line in front of Troy Aikman. Defense across from Troy Aikman. Running back in the backfield. Full back in the backfield. Jerry said that winning, we must win at all costs. This is Jerry Jones. There is no substitute for winning. That's what he said then. Why? Because Jerry had a plan. I'm about to put the NFL, not the Dallas Cowboys, I'm about to put the NFL on the map. And Jerry did it. But now he can't beat the monster he created. The business of football. Jerry can't beat it. He can't beat the business of football. He still manages to be the most valuable franchise in the world, sports franchise in the world. He's achieved that. It's going nowhere. Problem is now he can't win. He can't win. He can't. And until he learns how to play this business of football better that he created, he's going to continue to ironically be a loser in the business of football. Yeah, Freddie, I agree with you. Yeah, it's no longer football is the problem. It's the business of football. And it's the business of football that now is interrupting what goes on the field. It's business. It's business. Dak Prescott said something I don't think people will, they will not understand it for years. Dak said that if Jerry didn't sign him, he was not going to be mad. Dak said, now I understand this is a business. That was a gangster statement right there. That was a gangster statement. Dak said business, never personal. That's why you don't see Dak cuddling up to Jerry Jones like Tony Romo did. Tony Romo, it wasn't all about business. He going to the grandson's football games and hanging out with the Joneses. It was not just business with Tony Romo. Dak Prescott says it's about winning in business. Alex says, I agree, Robert. Building teams strictly through the draft is ridiculous. I don't know why Jerry doesn't like getting guys through free agency. Because he don't like to spend the money. Cowboys are the only team that do it. It's crazy. Be real minds. Now, Jerry is donating 4th round picks like Goodwill. Hey, be real minds. Jerry Jones does not like 4th round draft picks, does he? It's like that's the draft pick right there. He just said, oh, man, I don't need that. Who want it? Trey Lance. Now Jonathan Mingo. Genty already fumbled twice. He's losing draft stock. Jay Recruiter. That might be a good thing. Maybe he could fall to the Cowboys. Yeah, Michelle. Everybody's saying Steven is the one who's really cheap. Yep, Jerry living in the 90s. Everyone else, they're not living in the 90s no more. They can't. So can he say his star players take too much of the salary cap, leaving another free agents? It's crazy. Exactly. But now everybody's catching on to him because everyone else is spending money on their big-time free agents. That question that was asked yesterday, when he asked Steven, he said, the Philadelphia Eagles have 8 non-rookie stars. They're not on rookie contracts. They're not on rookie contracts. And they're only taking up 31% of the cap. And y'all have 4 players y'all managing, and they're 32% of the cap. Whose fault is that? It's Jerry Jones' fault. Stephen Jones' fault. Kevontae Turpin, I'm telling you, I keep saying it. Turpin's going to get paid. He's a restricted free agent. He's going to get paid. Robert said these other team owners and GMs are running circles around Jerry. Yep. They understand football. And if you notice, a lot of these guys, they've been around football longer than Jerry. And they've been around football longer than Jerry, but they won't even take on the positions of director of player personnel, general manager. They don't take that stuff. Hey, man, get a GM. Get a GM so we can sit in the press box and look pretty. They're not doing the stuff we're doing. Only we are doing this stuff. And this is why we are still getting the same result. Let me let you hear something else that Brian Broader says about Mike McCarthy. That's what I really want to get to. I want you to hear what he says about Mike McCarthy, and then we'll go to the statement with Michael Parsons y'all talking about, because I said I wasn't gonna do nothing on Michael Parsons because I don't want people to think I just hate Michael Parsons. But this comment that Michael Parsons made, it's not the comment though. I'll talk about it when I get to Michael Parsons. But I'm gonna tell the story I'm going to tell the story that I heard on the radio today, and then we'll go to Micah Parsons. But let's listen again to Brian Broaddus.
Where does Zeke rank for you? All best running back.
Have a really long in Cowboy history. DeMarco Murray, Smith, Dorsett.
Attention retirees.
Yeah, he's talking about where Zeke ranks. That is something that I'm going to be doing a lot of that stuff in the offseason. So we're going to have some fun in the offseason. I'm not just going to do a lot of the boring draft stuff.
Yeah, it seems like that.
I'm actually going to be doing the top players
for the Cowboys
in Cowboys history. I think that'll be fun for all of us while we're waiting on the season
we got
to start
the homes.
We get Green Bay at home, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to
take on the Raiders.
Because you got your ass kicked. Games. Okay, New England Jets.
Okay, start about the schedule.
The Chargers, as it stands right now. Late. In what world? Why were you drinking beet juice?
You're getting ball sacked.
I don't know. Playmaker.
This is 6-11 show deal. We picked 9 and 8.
No. But we did have the overall schedule pretty much nailed.
New Orleans thought they had it too. They thought they were Super Bowl back.
All out that day.
The playmaker Michael Irvin was on the.
Okay. So I may have to cut this out because Fox doesn't like you to use a lot of their stuff. So I'll cut it out, but you guys will get the pleasure of hearing the actual audio from Michael Irvin on the herd and what he's going to say about Mike McCarthy, and then what Brian Broaddus is going to follow up with. This is the part I want you to hear.
He heard with Colin Cowherd and listened to him talk about McCarthy and his future status.
This for me, this kind of game erases December. I don't. You can't tell me, we play good in December, and then the backups to the team, their backups playing your backups, and they put up a 40 burger on you, and you look like the way you look. So I think, this takes away some of the things that you have.
Would you replace McCarthy?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I just think it's time to go in another direction.
Okay.
And I hear this late surge to maybe to stay with Mike McCarthy. I'm not on that. I'm not on that bandwagon.
I have got to give Michael Irvin credit. I told y'all when it comes to Jimmy Johnson, y'all do not understand. You're not watching the Jimmy Johnson that won the Super Bowls with Dallas. You're watching the Jimmy Johnson who's now getting the paychecks from the networks. It's amazing to me that Jimmy endorses Mike, but then rips Mike and Jerry this past weekend for losing. Which one is it, Jimmy? Which way you want it? Which way do you want it now? You want to rip him when you want to rip him, but then you want to say keep him. You want to say keep him. Thank you, Michael Irvin, for not betraying what you believe and what your eyes are seeing based on your football acumen. Michael Irvin said, I am not on that train. Thank you. Thank you, Michael Irvin. Let's listen.
What I believe is this team needs more discipline. I'm not saying Mike McCarthy is not a good coach, X's and O's coach, but I think the team needs more discipline. And sometimes, and it's hard to bring that in when you say, okay, this guy who doesn't have that firm hand and discipline is now going to either bring somebody else in to help him with discipline.
You know what I always said, Michael? It's much easier.
That doesn't work.
Okay, so Michael Irvin, obviously not in favor of bringing McCarthy back. I disagreed with him with what he said in regards to the X's and O's stuff and having a respect for McCarthy's football acumen. But the old school players look at McCarthy's offense and they think that it is schematically up to par because it's the stuff that they were doing when they were winning in the 90s. Mm-hmm. But it has not advanced like the rest of the league has offensively. So agree to disagree with Michael Irvin there, but the overall point.
Me too. I don't think he's good with X's and O's. I don't. It's not that he doesn't understand X's and O's, and maybe that's what Mike meant. Mike McCarthy understands X's and O's. There's no doubt about it. But he loves the West Coast offense to a fault. He switched to what he called the Texas Coast last year, went back to the vanilla West Coast offense this year. To a fault. He absolutely loves it.
The discipline, all that stuff. And this Eagles game just erasing all the.
Now, let me say this before he says what he says. See, Mike has visions of Jimmy Johnson in his mind when he's talking about discipline. And I'm going to tell you a story about Jimmy Johnson after I let you hear Brian Broaddus that's going to blow your mind and why I now know why Michael Irvin said what he said.
The good equity that he had built up over these last few weeks. I agree with Michael Irvin, and I do appreciate that he's willing to go out there and say that because there's so many voices right now. Jimmy Johnson, Troy Aikman, oh yeah, McCarthy needs to come back. Yeah. Come on, the discipline stuff is real too. You know, it's not like he's got everything dialed and it's just his X's and O's offensively that are problematic. And
does he have a discipline problem?
I mean, you're just always penalized. Your teams aren't ready to play when it's time to go play up against the real teams, good teams. You and your team are deer in the headlights.
Is that discipline or is that just lack of talent? Are you playing better teams that are better teams?
These teams like
this one to me is
when you're getting blown out, dude. You're not barely losing these games. You're not right there. You're getting smashed.
But is that discipline or is that just you're not good enough?
Y'all gonna call me a prophet before it's over. Did you hear what Brian Broaddus said? Have I not been saying this for weeks? Brian Broaddus is saying what I've been saying. For you folk who keep talking about the collapse of the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott in the playoffs, I said it and I'll say it again. We don't want to face the cold, hard facts because we always want to talk about the players around Dak Prescott, but it's not the players, it's the team. And the reality is Brian Broaddus is stating the same thing. These teams are better than us. These teams are better than us. I can remember Troy Aikman and the Cowboys going up against teams, and there was not a time in the 90s. I was actually shocked in 94. I was shocked in 94 when the 49ers beat the Cowboys. And it seemed like to me they wanted the 49ers to beat the Cowboys. It was the Steve Young coming out year from up under Joe Montana's shadow. He needed the Super Bowl to get from up under the great shadow of Joe Montana. Seemed like to me they wanted him to win, but I digress. There was not a time in 92, 93, 94, even when they lost that year, in 95. Y'all tell me 92 through 95. Was there ever a moment the Cowboys came up against a team and y'all thought they were going to lose? For anybody who watched them in the 90s. Was there ever a time? The Cowboys were that good. There was not a team they could face. I never looked at any team the Cowboys played and said, they're better than the Cowboys. They didn't go undefeated. That's hard to do. But they dominated the entire seasons. I don't care if they got beat 3 games, 4 games. They dominated, and I never looked at them saying that there was a team better than them. But guess what? These teams that Tony Romo quarterbacked, these teams that Dak Prescott has quarterbacked, when they get to the playoffs, there has never been a time they hit the playoffs and I said, they're better than that team. They're going to dominate them. They're better than that team. I'll be honest with you. The win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was Dak's signature game. I was shocked. I was shocked at what they did to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was absolutely shocked. And they dominated that game. I was shocked. I have not seen the Cowboys in the playoffs in the 7 appearances of Dak Prescott, and I said that team is dominant. I've never said that about the Cowboys. Said that about other teams in the playoffs over the years. Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady, New England Patriots with Tom Brady. The super team that Sean McVay put together around Matthew Stafford, when they won that Super Bowl, there was no doubt. Even though I think they cheated the Cincinnati Bengals, but that's a whole nother story. I have not seen a Cowboys team since the 95 Super Bowl that I said that this team is dominant. Y'all remember what I said yesterday? When you go into games and you're saying, hey, man, if the Cowboys do this, and if the Cowboys do this, and if that team isn't dominant. That's not a dominant team. You don't say that about dominant teams. No, not dominant teams. Notice how few ifs you use with dominant teams. In the 90s with the Cowboys, I don't recall ever saying if about the Cowboys. I don't recall saying if. No, I knew we were going to win. They were that doggone dominant. I never looked at the 90s Cowboys and said, man, if they can run the ball. No, I didn't have to say if. No, I knew they were going to run the ball. Man, if they can get Michael, no, I didn't have to say if they can hit Michael Irvin because I knew they were going to hit Michael Irvin. You didn't have to say none of that stuff. Man, if the Cowboys can stop Thurman Thompson, I didn't have to say that because I knew Darren Woodson and that defense were absolute thumpers. And I didn't care who it was. I knew they were going to win. And there has not been a team with Romo nor Dak that I looked at that team and said, they're so dominant that I didn't say if. I wish I would have started this channel last year. Maybe I could have helped some of y'all with the Green Bay game because I would have had you all ready for that game to be a defeat. Because when they went into that game, me and my uncle was having a conversation, and I can remember me and him talking about if. If. Hey, the Cowboys are really good. If they can stop Green Bay's running game, they didn't stop them. If we can run the ball, we couldn't run the ball. If we can throw it to somebody other than CeeDee Lamb, we couldn't. When you go into games with all those ifs, you're not better than the other team. Brian Broaddus is saying something, and I've been saying this. And Mike McCarthy, he does get this, but I'm not still giving him the leeway. Brian Broaddus is going to give him the same thing, but watch what Brian Broaddus comes back and does to him. Brian Broaddus is now about to destroy Mike McCarthy.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk here.
Well,
I think
semantics on what it is. Your coach doesn't have your team ready to play when the games actually matter. When there's no expectation to win and the postseason is now you're eliminated.
And
sure,
okay.
When the expectation go all the way down to the floor, then fine.
That's where I've said to you, I said they don't have a difference maker.
Correct.
It's not discipline. It's a difference maker. You don't have that coach that could get you to the point where when you're playing a good team, that he could be the one advantage you have.
Did I not say this the other day? Brian Broaddus is dropping megaton bombs because Brian Broaddus is pointing out the fact that Mike McCarthy, let me tell you about Jimmy. I can just tell you about Jimmy. Jimmy made a difference on the field. 1,000%. Jimmy made a difference on the field. Player, Players knew. You don't make bad plays with Jimmy. And you definitely don't get to make 2 bad plays with Jimmy. They knew. Jimmy made a difference. Jimmy had an expectation of his players. And Jimmy made sure they knew what his expectation was. Execution. We're better than this team, doggone it. Execute. Execute. You know the plays. We've practiced this. We've practiced this stuff. We have the players. We have dominant players. Execute. That was the expectation. Execute. And if you can't execute, we'll get somebody who can. We'll get somebody who can execute. That coach is a difference maker. People can call Dan Campbell crazy all they want to. I love that mad scientist. I love how Dan Quinn operates. I love how he operates. People get mad when he goes to these 4th and 3s. You don't understand what he's doing. He's building a mentality. He's building an expectation. He's building a culture. He is building accountability. He is telling his team, execute. I'm not going for it on 4th and 3 because I don't think we can make it. I'm not going for it on 4th and 3 because I hope we can make it. I'm going on 4th and 3 because I know you can make it. That's a different type of coaching. I'd love to play for Dan Campbell. That's a different type of coaching. Folk don't understand that type of coaching no more. The average person calls it stupid. Not me. I love what he's doing. I love what he's doing. And I don't care if he loses some of those. I love what he's doing because Dan Campbell is a coach that is making a difference on the field. He's pushing his players to make plays. He's pushing them to do it. He's building confidence in them. He's building in expectations. I expect you to do this. You can tell when Mike McCarthy goes for it on 4th and 2, oh, he's going for it, and then they'll start talking about it. And then they'll ask Mike McCarthy, hey, man, what happened on that play in what happened on that play? What happened on that play right there? I mean, why'd you go for it on that play right there with that down and distance? Oh, well, the analytics said. The analytics said. The analytics said. So you're entrusting the team to the analytics. I'm the coach. I'm the coach, and I thought we could make it. I thought we could make it. Okay, we didn't make it. You build your teams. You build your team's mentalities. You build your teams. And he's saying something. Brian Broaddus is saying something about Mike McCarthy. He doesn't make a difference in games. He doesn't. He doesn't. Philly D said Broaddus is very good at what he does. He wanted Andy Reid to be hired for the Eagles. That would have been a very smart move. And Andy Reid was great with the Eagles. I'm telling y'all, had Andy Reid got Michael Vick in his prime, they'd have won at least 2 Super Bowls. Andy Reid almost took Michael Vick to the Super Bowl. Michael Vick looked so good under Andy Reid, it was insane. Had he got him in his prime, the NFL wouldn't have wanted to see him. Oh, yeah, the NFL wants parity for sure. The NFL wants parity, but KC getting gifts. Stop it, Philly D. Stop telling truth. Marco says if you made multiple bad plays on a Jimmy Johnson, he set you down during the game until you got your head back into the game. Because he had an expectation. When Mike McCarthy goes for it, have you ever noticed it? He doesn't actually have an expectation to get it. He hopes he's going to get it. Hope and expectation are two different things. Now, when you look, I explain this to people all the time. When you look at the word hope in the Bible, we have misconstrued the word hope in the secular world compared to what it means in the Bible. The Bible said there is one hope. So when we talk about the one hope of going to heaven, the one hope of going to heaven is based on the truth. It's based on the truth. It's based on what Jesus did, and it's based on what we do based on what Jesus did. Hope is actually based on facts. That's the part people don't understand. Hope is based on facts. Hope is based on actions. Hope is an expectations based on facts and the truth. We have turned hope into a chance. Oh, man, I got some lottery tickets. I hope I win. Do you know the chances of winning the lottery? 1 in a zillion? I mean, I don't know the exact, but it's 1 in a zillion. For you to spend your money on lottery tickets is almost like flushing money down the toilet. Because there's actually no rhyme or reason. There's no science to it. You're literally taking a chance. And we turn chance into hope. And so when a team builds a mentality of expectations, when they go for it, when Dan Campbell goes for it on 4th and 3, Dan Campbell isn't going for it on 4th and 3 because he thinks there's a chance he's going to make it. He's not going for it on 4th and 3 because he's saying, I hope I make it, like as in the hope in the world. Dan Campbell is saying, I know my team. I know how good we are. I know the confidence that they know I have in them. And so it is my expectation when we go for it on 4th and 3. They're going to get it. It's my expectation. That's how you build mentality. You can tell when the Cowboys go for it on some of these 4th and 2s. They don't really, you can just tell how they're executing the play. And then their response after they don't get the play. They were looking at it like it was a chance, but not an expectation. Dan Campbell's team, let me tell you something. Dan Campbell's team, when they see 4th and 3, do you think they do what other teams do? Do you think that when Dan Campbell's team see 4th and 3, do you think they immediately start walking off the field like other teams do, undoing their chin straps? Get relaxed. Okay, we'll get it on the next one. Do you think his teams do that? When Dan Campbell's teams gets in 4th and 3, they look over to the coach. What's the play? What's the play? They don't expect punt. What's the play? I want to play for that coach. I want to play for that doggone coach right there. Dan Campbell, it's high risk, high reward. But I want to play for that coach. I'll run through a wall for a coach like that. When you get a coach that has no fear, I'll play for that coach. I'll play for that doggone, I'll play for that coach. Because he's telling you something, man. I got confidence in what you do. I do. Yeah, Nick Sirianni got dog in him. He does. His players love him. They love it. They love the dog in him. Michelle says going to backfire on Dan Campbell on and watch what I tell you. But you know what, Michelle? You know what we also have seen? We've also seen it pay off. I've watched it pay off for him. I've watched it pay off. And what you do, you keep building that mentality. And it's going to pay off. It is. The Cowboys were at their best in Dak Prescott era when Zeke were rookies, exactly. And they were committed to running the ball with great offensive line. Dallas' next coach should do this and not Mike McCarthy. Yeah. And that's why I think Jerry Jones needs to go draft a running back in the first round and send a stark message that if he keeps Mike McCarthy, Mike, we're running the ball. We're running the ball. We are. I'm going to let you hear the last thing with Brian Brothers, and I'm going to tell you this story that I was told because it goes exactly with this. Willie T, G is simple. Jerry and Stephen both say they are trying to win their way. They don't give a dang on about the head coach philosophy. Brian Brothers hit it on the head. They want to do it their way so that when they win, they can say we did it our way like Frank Sinatra. That's why they're doing it. Problem is, it's just not working. It don't matter if Philly or Detroit because KC or Buff are going to win the Super Bowl. Man, I'm going to tell you something, Freddie. The AFC better watch out. I'll be honest with you. In the playoffs, I don't think the Buffalo Bills want no part of the Philadelphia Eagles nor the Detroit Lions. Those teams are loaded. They're loaded. And they can stop Josh Allen. I don't know about Detroit. They're playing with a hampered defense, but they can still outscore you. But I'm telling us, as much as we hate the Eagles, and I get it, you can hate them all you want to. They're built to win. The Eagles are built to win. I hope the Cowboys build the next team like this. The Eagles, y'all, are built to win. They can control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They got great safety play. Great safety play. They can run the doggone ball. Good to great offensive line. Two guys on the outside that can literally burn you at any moment. Saquon Barkley is a home run hitter. Jalen Hurts is a dual threat. I'm telling you, you watch what I tell you. AFC beware. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions are both built to beat teams over there. They're built to beat them. They're built to beat them. They are. Let me let you hear what the rest of Brian brought us, and then I'm going to tell you this story. I think this story is so powerful, and it goes towards what's being said.
That's discipline to me is like the team is the penalty stuff and all that. We haven't had a deal where we had Mike McCarthy stand up there and, well, the bad penalties were bad today. Penalties were bad. He there was some of that early in the year, and then all of a sudden they changed the left tackle out. They weren't having holding calls. They weren't having guys lining up deep in the backfield. Defense, we didn't see the holdings and the, am I right about that? Am I right about the number of penalties? I mean, I'm sure you can pull it up a lot faster than me, but that I just kind of feel like when you talk about discipline is like your team is just, you're having problems off the field. There's a lot of complaining. There's a lot of, the locker room is bad.
Cowboys have the fourth most penalties in the season.
Okay. Can you break it down on a week-to-week thing for me? Do they have that?
I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, I could get that at the break. I could probably get that at the break. But there was a time where, they were one of them. And every week McCarthy stood up there and was, we got to be better on penalties. We got to be better. I don't feel like that they've been the most penalized team in the league the last 6-7 weeks.
Yeah, they've done better with that.
I'm with you. I appreciate Mike wants to get a new coach, but I think if he would have said, I don't think Mike McCarthy's a difference maker. Jimmy Johnson is a difference maker. He played for a difference maker. That's where I think this team lacks, because you do play against teams like, look next year. Minnesota's got a difference maker. Detroit's got a difference maker. I think Kansas City's got a difference maker.
Denver.
I think Denver's got a difference maker. See, if McCarthy comes back, he's going to be at a disadvantage in all those games.
Chargers with Harbaugh.
Keep going.
Yeah. No, that's just the fact of the matter. And we definitely agree. We would both like to see someone new here. Yeah. So we'll agree with the playmaker on that.
mega ton bombs at the end. Have I not continued to say, anybody who's been listening to me talk, what do I keep saying? Coaching matters. Coaching matters. GMs matter. We don't have real GMs. Nisi says it all the time. We don't have real GMs. And Mark Schlereth said it. Until we empower a coach here, we're going to get the same result. We're going to get the same result. And the problem is, and Mike McCarthy has become the ultimate yes man for the Cowboys. And they need a coach that can push back on the ownership. Fire me. I mean, you're still going to get paid. Fire me. What are you going to do? This is the last year of the deal anyway. Fire me. I'm still going to get paid. I'm going to do it my way. We don't have that coach, but you think about it. Willie T just asked a great question down here. Jeanette Rogers, what's going on? Willie T, I know it's rhetorical, but I'm with you. How many times do you see the Lions GM or owner talk to the media first after every game? I just think it's creepy that they go into the locker room. I just think it's creepy. But story time. Let me tell you a weird story that I heard today on the radio. And this story absolutely blew my mind. Let me give you story time. So I was listening to 105.3 The Fan today. And I forgot the guy who was talking. But any of you older Cowboy fans, you remember the Cowboys had a defensive coordinator by the name of Dave Onstad, I think his name was. Dave Onstad. In case you don't know what he looks like, this is what Dave Onstad looks like. He was a great defensive coordinator, I think he was, for the Dallas Cowboys during those Super Bowl years. Let me see here. He was a DC. Can't remember which year it was. Lucky was the Bears head coach. I think he was with the Cowboys. It must have been the first Super Bowl, didn't it? Because he went on to got a job. But he was a DC with the Dallas Cowboys. Very good at his job. And he was asked the question, Dave Onstad. Dave Onstad was asked the question, when did everything change in Dallas? He said it was a game after Troy Aikman. He didn't say the game. He said Troy Aikman threw multiple interceptions in a game that season. Dave said that Jimmy walked up to Troy Aikman and told him point blank range, you cannot quarterback for me throwing multiple interceptions. You cannot play for me. And told Troy Aikman, this is the story, Dave Onstad told it, and told Troy Aikman at point blank range, because if that's the case, I'll play Steve Berline. Now, anybody who remembers for folk who absolutely love Troy Aikman, don't realize that Troy Aikman was in a quarterback battle with one Steve Berline, who, if I'm not mistaken, Jimmy had coached in college, and Jimmy went and got Steve Berline. Troy Aikman got hurt. Steve Berline played, and the Dallas Cowboys were winning games. See, this Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott thing, it's not new. There were a lot of people who didn't think that Troy Aikman was going to get his job back from Steve Berline. But Jimmy told Troy Aikman point blank range, you can't play for me making multiple turnovers, and I'll play Steve Berline. Dave Onestad says that at the same time, he said he noticed that people started going towards a certain area, maybe outside the locker room or in the locker room. I think it may have been outside the locker room. And he was wondering what's going on. Jimmy's wondering what's going on. Jerry Jones gathered the press together after Jimmy Johnson has literally destroyed Troy Aikman. Dave Onestad said that Jerry Jones got right in front of the media and said everything is good with Troy Aikman, and gushed about how good Troy Aikman was in spite of his bad play. Dave Onestad said that was the beginning of the end. And have you noticed? This is exactly how Jerry does players today. Jerry allows his players to come to him. Jerry defends his players over the coach. Jerry emasculates his coaches. Jerry doesn't give his coaches any power. And Dave Onestad is basically explaining this is when the power struggle really, really began, because Jerry Jones absolutely loved Troy Aikman. Y'all might not realize it. Jay Recruiter has talked about it. Jimmy Johnson, when he went to the Miami Dolphins, he wanted to trade the beloved Dan Marino like he did Herschel Walker in Dallas and build a team, and they ran him out of town. And for anybody who thinks that the Jimmy of them days in the 90s, it wouldn't have bothered Jimmy to go with Steve Berline if Steve Berline gave the Dallas Cowboys the better chance to win. That's Jimmy Johnson. That's how you make a difference on the field. How much you bet players saw that? They never talked about it. I've never heard nobody talk about it. But this guy, he said it. He said it was the first time he told a story. But Dave Onestad told him out of his own mouth. That's how Jimmy was. Jimmy didn't play, y'all. This Troy Aikman we talking about. He threatened Troy Aikman. And Jerry said, not here. And that concludes story time. But this is what you're dealing with this team. This is what you're dealing with. That Dave Onestad story is fascinating to me. I've never heard, but now it makes sense when you think about, because a lot of folk, they're probably too young. Some folk don't even know who Steve Berline is. But Jimmy would have had no problem. I'm telling y'all, the Jimmy of that time would have had no problem. He'd have had no problem replacing Troy Aikman with Steve Berline. He wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. That's just how cutthroat Jimmy was, man. I mean, I'm not saying he was cutthroat, but that's just the expectations that Jimmy built. Jimmy expected you to win with him. Jimmy expected you to execute. There was no alternative. There was no alternative. Matter of fact, so it was, Berline played, it looks like, for Notre Dame his sophomore season. Let's see. Wait, let me see. Yeah, I thought he actually played for Jimmy. That's what I was trying to find. I thought he actually played for Jimmy. Okay, I thought he played for Jimmy. Okay, maybe I was mistaken by that. I thought he played for Jimmy in college, though. I was trying to see if he played for Jimmy because I thought he had played for Jimmy. But whatever the case was, I can tell you this. Jimmy liked Steve Berline. Jimmy liked Steve Berline. And so he wound up with the Dallas Cowboys. It says less than a week before the start of the 1991 season, the Raiders traded Steve Berline to the Dallas Cowboys, who desired a backup for Troy Aikman in exchange for a fourth-round draft pick. Ironic, isn't it? They traded it for a fourth-round draft pick. According to head coach Jimmy Johnson, the Cowboys had been actively pursuing Berline for quite some time, including a trade agreement worked out in January that Davis reportedly backed out of. When Aikman injured his knee in Week 13 against the Washington Redskins, Berline came off the bench and threw a fourth-quarter touchdown pass to Michael Irvin as the Cowboys held on for a 24-21 victory, defeating the 11-0 Redskins in their home stadium. He then started the remaining 4 games of the season. Look at this. Y'all think this is new, don't you? Y'all think this Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott stuff is new. Look at what happened. Berline came off the bench. He started the remaining 4 games, winning all 4, leading the Cowboys to an 11-5 record, their best since the 1983 season under Tom Landry. They made the playoffs for the first time since 1985, capturing the 5th seed as the wild card team. And a lot of people were thinking that Troy Aikman was not going to get his job back. Look at this. With Aikman's knee healthy enough to start the first playoff game at the Chicago Bears, Johnson decided to continue playing Berline, a move that upset Aikman at the time. Berline threw 180 yards, 1 touchdown and no interceptions, and leading the Cowboys to a 17-13 victory at Soldier Field. It was the Cowboys' first road playoff win in over a decade. The following week, he started at Detroit, but was relieved by Aikman early in the game as the Cowboys would go on to lose, ending their playoff run as the Cowboys were blown out by the Detroit Lions. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Do we really think that Jerry Jones was going to let Steve Berline start over Troy Aikman? Because I don't. It makes you wonder, like, maybe who influenced that change? Troy Aikman was angry? You don't think Jerry knew he was angry? Early on in the Detroit game, he's relieved by Troy Aikman. They get blown out by Detroit. Troy Aikman comes back, 1992, and it's no wonder he might have had a breakout season. He had a breakout season. An absolute breakout season, 13-3, and they reached the Super Bowl. That is crazy when you think about it. Dave Onstad said that was the changing of the guard. That's when he knew things were going to be like they were. I'm telling you, man, ever since this thing with Jimmy Johnson, this is why things look so different. It was already, now we realize, and I think Onstad said, as a matter of fact, I think he said that was in 1991. I think he said that was in 1991. And coincidentally, in 1991, Troy Aikman got hurt and Steve Berline took over. And so Dave Onstad is letting us in on some insight that Jimmy had already warned warned Troy Aikman. I'm telling you, man, knowing what we know about Jerry now makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Willie T, he answered a good question. I've asked it before. No other GM does it. It's creepy. Jay Recruiter, don't sleep on the Vikings. I'm definitely not sleeping on them. I wouldn't be surprised. Freddie says if you mess too much on the Jimmy, you lost your White House privileges. They'll get that one, Freddie, later on. Philly D, G keeps it real. I do my best, my brother. Cowboys start. Dak's running days over. Gets hurt every time he does. We'll see. We'll see. He's working on his body right now. He's already been talking about it. It's crazy because I've been seeing now Dak Prescott, he's walking really good without crutches. So I'm interested to see what he's going to look like when he come back. Jay Recruiter says their secondary is their weakness, but their safeties are really good. Their safeties are really good. Michelle said Eagle fan gets on my nerves. I'm not an Eagles fan, trust me. Dak would have touched him again. Yeah, I think so. There was throws all over the place. Philly D said, I'm being fair and not a troll. Love the NFC East. Man, it's going to be, NFC East is going to be a monster next year with Dallas, Washington, and Philly. And Jerry better pull some rabbits out of the hat because the Commanders are not going to be no joke next year. The Commanders are not going to be no joke. And I think that the Philadelphia Eagles will continue to have Saquon Barkley. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like after running a 2,000-yard season. Willie T said Dan Campbell was hired to coach the team the way he wants to, not the way the owner tells him to do things. Exactly. I love it, Willie T. And that's what Jerry was letting Jimmy do. But as I just told you in the story, Dave Onstad said things were unraveling slowly but surely. And now Dave Onstad, in reality, kind of gave us the background of the Jerry Jones press conference. Because Dave Onstad tells the story that basically Jerry came into the locker room. And Dave says that when Jerry did it, he was just kind of like, Philly D, most hated team in the East is the Giants, man. Giants going to have they got about 2-3 years to get this thing together. Jay Recruit, I keep saying Philly's weakness is their secondary, but their front seven is woe. And their safeties are too. They now have 10 takeaways between the two safeties. Philly D, our back seven is great. Yeah, the safeties are really good. They are. All those teams don't have the Joneses as their bosses. That's the problem. Straight facts. To beat those top teams, your coach has to be a dog. McCarthy is soft. That's what Brian Broaddus is talking about. He doesn't make a difference on the field. Jimmy made a difference on the field. And if you look at all these teams, Andy Reid, check. McDermott, check. He's on the hot seat from what I'm hearing, though. Ravens. And you think about this. Let me just look at McDermott for a moment. It's amazing how the narrative is different around the quarterbacks that they like versus Dak Prescott. With the Dallas Cowboys, between Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy, it's Dak's fault. But when it's Justin Herbert, who's gotten 3 coaches, 2 OCs fired, it's the coaches. Do you realize that the Buffalo Bills are 13-3 and may possibly be 14-3 when it's all said and done? They're going to be the number 2 seed, and they're already saying that if the Buffalo Bills don't go all the way, Steve McDermott's job is at risk? Because it's his fault. Because they're basically saying that Josh Allen is so good that it has to be the coaching if Josh Allen isn't going to the Super Bowl. But if the Cowboys aren't going to the Super Bowl, the coaches are good enough, and it's Dak Prescott's fault. That's why I'm glad that Michael Irvin told Colin Cowherd to his face the Cowboys need to change with McCarthy. But you look at the Ravens. The Ravens have Harbaugh. I forgot the name of the Texans coach, but he's a good coach too. Tomlin for the Steelers, Harbaugh for the Chargers, and then we have Peyton for the Broncos. All coaches that make a difference on their teams on the field. I mean, we've already talked about Dan Campbell, very polarizing figure. I love him. Sirianni, love him or hate him, Sirianni got some dog in him. Sean McVay, young but old soul. He kind of builds really good teams. I forgot the Vikings coach, but he's a very good coach. Dan Quinn, love him or hate him, Dan Quinn is a culture builder, and he has went over there and made a tremendous change with the Commanders. Matt LaFleur for the Green Bay Packers, a very good coach. Todd Bowles for the Buccaneers. There are people calling for the job of Todd Bowles. I like Todd Bowles, but Todd Bowles may find himself out of Tampa Bay sooner than later. But all of these top teams, they all got great coaches. And while I just don't think Mike McCarthy is a great coach. I don't think he's a great coach. I don't. Nisi said Bill did that all the time in New England. He did it with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady even said as much. Tom Brady said it, and other players said it, that when they saw Bill get on Tom Brady, then what did that mean for them? Willie T. Willie T says, you're completely proving my point. Jerry's the problem, not the coaches. And and I still got a problem with Mike McCarthy. I got a problem with Mike McCarthy because he doesn't control the parts he can control. And that's the play calling. It is obvious he's been controlling the play calling. It is obvious because Jerry don't know nothing about no offense. And Jerry definitely don't want no doggone. Jerry does not want no West Coast offense. Ask Jerry what he wants. Jerry wants his $231 million quarterback throwing for 300 yards a game, 3 or 4 touchdowns, hitting CeeDee Lamb, and hitting other wide receivers down the field. That's what Jerry wants. Oh, and on top of that, and run the ball with it too. Jerry likes that stuff. He wants the prolific plays. The real Darryl, Philly D. Marino is the primary reason he never got back to the Super Bowl. He wanted to win with his arm. Yep. I bet you that joker could go back now. Shoo. I bet that joker could go back now. He'd change everything. Recruiter, Steve Walsh played in Miami. Okay, Steve Walsh. Thank you, Jay Recruiter. I was thinking Berline and Walsh. Yeah. The 70s fan, no, I don't think they were going to lose in the 90s. Man, I never thought the Cowboys were going to lose in the 90s. I was shocked when they lost to the San Francisco 49ers. Jones not hiring coaches like JJ anymore, and they won't do it. This is why I keep telling y'all, I would love for Pete Carroll to get an opportunity. I would. He's older statesman. He might be able to handle Jerry way better than McCarthy. Anybody think that Jones is going to hire a coach like that? I don't think so. But I would love to see a Pete Carroll. Steve Walsh did play at the U. Okay, it was Steve. Okay, thank you. I thought it was Berline, but it was Walsh. Bullseye, the real Darryl. Yes, sir. Happy New Year, Andre Mosley. Berline was a good quarterback. When he played, you did not see a drop-off in play with him at QB1. And real Darryl, I'm going to tell you what nobody don't want to admit or what they didn't want to see. What if Steve Berline would have taken that 92 team to the Super Bowl and won? They were loaded. That team was doggone loaded. I'm not taking anything away from Troy Aikman. I'm just stating the facts. Those teams were loaded, man. A quarterback like Steve Berline probably could have won with that team. I mean, he went 4-0. They only got better the next season. Man, I was thinking the same thing, Jay Recruiter, that fourth round. I was laughing, man. Jimmy said a lot about Troy, but it was always smoke and mirror. Troy is what his guy, Michael Irvin, even said it when he had to left off the flight to a game. Man, I'm gonna tell you though, Willie T, I'm wondering about that Dave One stat that Dave One stat story, and I'm gonna tell you something about Jimmy. Folk do not understand how smooth operator Jimmy was. What do you think Jimmy could have got for Troy on the trading block? What do you think he could have got? Dude, okay, so if Jimmy was willing to trade Dan Marino, so we don't think he would have traded Troy. Now, the Jimmy today would tell you he wouldn't dare trade Troy. The Jimmy back then, I wouldn't put nothing past Jimmy, man. I just wouldn't put nothing past Jimmy. Jimmy was built different back then, y'all. I'm telling you. Jimmy was built different. All right, y'all. Let's hit this last story. And then we're gonna let y'all go enjoy New Year's. Let's hit this last story. There's actually so many stories going today. I'm gonna have to hit some of these stories probably Thursday. I don't know if I'll have time tomorrow, but there are just so many stories going on with the Cowboys right now. It's insane. There are so many different things to listen to. I've never seen a team losing that there is so much to talk about. It is crazy. Let's play this last clip. This last clip, man, I said I was going.
This is how to get in shape fast.
I said I was not going to do it because I'm telling you, people think I hate Micah Parsons. I absolutely love Micah Parsons. I just think he's out of position. I think he's undersized at defensive end. I do think he's an absolute elite player. I just don't think he's an elite player at defensive end because he gets lost in these games when they have the good to great tackles like the Buccaneers, like the Bengals, like the Eagles. And when you go up against playoff teams, there's a reason why they're playoff teams. They typically have good tackles. I mean, they typically have good offensive line play. He gets lost in the sauce on those. But I want you to hear what he said that has everyone scratching their head.
Turnovers and then not creating the turnovers back. We wasn't able to get the ball back today. So, when you kind of lose that turnover battle against a top team in the NFL, that's kind of like the outcome. We didn't get to play our brand of football today. So, obviously, it's upsetting when you come out and you're on the road and you're playing against a good team. You're like, okay, playing well, but can you consistently do it? And you kind of drop the standard like that. That hurts a lot. But, it's a learning experience.
Michael, 1 week, how would you say you are physically? Kind of look like you're favoring something coming out of the field?
Yeah, Saquon hit me. He chipped me right in my ribs. That kind of like shocked me a little bit. You know how it is. It was just a good, not anticipating rib shot, and it kind of sewed me up. But for the most part, man, I'm good, and I'm looking forward to finishing the season strong.
But that was you didn't pick it on that same play, did you?
Yeah.
Before you got to that?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about the fast start? You guys defensively, I mean, they were not moving the ball. Did something just change at that point? What do you think happened?
Big plays. You look at their play, they had 2 big runs and 3 good deep shots. Other than that, we made them earn it, and you take away the scoreboard. It was about 5 plays that decided this game. And you hate to say that because it's a lot of football, but the 2 deep shots to Devontae Smith and the one to A.J. Brown, and then also Devontae on that slant. For the most part, we're making them earn it. 3 yards, 2 yards, 4th and 1s, which is good football for when you're playing a team like the Eagles, But the other side is that when you play in those big teams, we understand big plays is going to happen. You understand, all right, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, some of the best guys in the league, they're going to make a big play. But you got to limit that big play margin from maybe from that 5 point to 1. You can handle 1 big play, but you can't give a team like that many big plays.
This is your first losing season in a Cowboys uniform. I assume that's not something you envision going into this year.
Man. Boy, to hear Michael Parsons talk, man. To hear Michael Parsons talk it's pure comedy. It is pure comedy. I mean, Michael Parsons is literally talking like, for the most part, they played really well in this game. It was only 5 plays. What? Michael, y'all got spanked. And the quarterback who you were hyping up, the quarterback got exactly. Shannon Sharp is going to say it. I'm going to release the video tonight. Shannon Sharp said it best. The Cowboys got exactly what they deserved. You're running around here hyping up the backup quarterback, taking shots at the starting quarterback like y'all about to make a playoff run. And the very problem that he's complaining about are the turnovers that were not only made by Rico and Ferg, but those 2 turnovers by Cooper Rush were detrimental. That pick 6 was crazy. Threw it right to him. Got exactly what you deserve. And the way Michael explains games, he's always explaining it like they didn't get spanked. Like they just made a couple of bad plays, or Philly only, he did this the first time they played, if anyone pays attention. You made them earn it? You didn't make them earn anything. They took everything from you. They didn't make them learn anything. No, they took it from them. The Eagles took the Cowboys' lunch. I'm going to let you hear the rest of this, and then I'm going to go back and show you something that's golden in this video. It's golden. I don't know if y'all caught it, but I'm going to show you something that's golden in this video.
Yeah, definitely not what I envisioned. Definitely not what I hoped for. You know, coming off a devastating playoff loss, and you say, hey, I was going to get the same team back, and we kind of know what it's going to look like, what the team's going to be like. And you go into the season and with the devastating injuries all across the board, between CD, Dak, Trey, you just can't catch a break. But you say.
Now, I want you to hear something that Micah says that's actually not accurate. They didn't actually bring back the same team. That's the problem. They didn't bring back the same team. They didn't bring back the Gillies. They didn't bring back all those players, the Fowlers, the players that Dan Quinn has from us now. They didn't run that team back. This is actually a totally different team. This team looks totally different from last year. No Tony Pollard. This team is not the same team. You don't change out 9 starters and then say you got the same team. This is why the injuries were that much more impactful on this team. Because of the depth that they let go. Y'all tell me if y'all don't think that Stephon Gilmore would have made a difference for the Cowboys this year. Tell me Stephon Gilmore wouldn't have made a difference. Stephon Gilmore would have made a huge difference for this team this year. Michael, this isn't the same team, brother. It's not.
Other teams who are fully healthy, and they're not where we're at right now, so I'm going to take that with a grain of salt and use that as motivation to go towards next year.
Like you guys were 12-5 for 3 straight years. The Eagles won the division today, and Washington coming up. Just how do you look at the outlook of the NFC East moving forward, and what you guys are going to have to do to get back on top of the division?
One, we're going to have to get healthy. We got 3 or 4 starters who aren't coming back to mid next season, so we got to plan for that. We got to get healthy. We got to keep coming together. It's going to be a tough point, but as far as the division, I mean, it's going to be tough. You know, I look at Jaden James as a franchise quarterback, so I'm going to be facing him for the next 18 years of my life. And you got Hurts, who's a franchise guy, so he's, you know, so every team pretty much got a franchise guy that I'm going to have to get used to. So, and then, you know, the Giants, they might go ahead and get a franchise guy. So, you know, it's going to be a very difficult next couple of years. It's going to be a very difficult couple of years.
You ready for the season to be over and restart?
Oh, no, man. You know, we watched a great video this week, and it's about, you know, what you start, you finish, right? And that talks about character, and then it talked about, you know, if you're a great football player, this is who you are. It's not what you do. So, you know, I'm not going to go ahead.
So I'm not going to play that part. This is the problem I have with Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, man, this is how he motivates his team with all these videos and stuff like that. I can't deal with it. But I want to go back to where Micah Parsons starts talking about the 5 or 6 plays. Let me show you absolute gold in this. Let me show you something. Let me cue it up. Let me cue it up. Man, boy, I'm about to give y'all some comedy gold if you have not paid attention. So the brother in the back is none other than Clarence Hill. I want y'all to watch Clarence Hill's face as Micah Parsons starts giving the reason of why they are getting why they got tore up by the Philadelphia Eagles. I want you to watch Clarence Hill's face, man. And Clarence Hill, he has to catch himself because just watch his face. Watch this.
You look at their play, I mean, they have 2 big runs and 3 good deep shots. Other than that, we made them earn it, and you take away the scoreboard. It was about 5 plays that decided this game. And you hate to say that because it's a lot of football, but you know, the 2 deep shots to Devontae Smith and the one to A.J. Brown, and then also Devontae on that slant, you know, for the most part, we're making them earn it. 3 yards, 2 yards, 4th and 1s, which is good football for when you're playing a team like the Eagles. But
I don't know what is going on in the background. Maybe it's something totally different. But I would have had a hard time myself not laughing like Clarence Hill as Micah Parsons is explaining this stuff. It's like Micah Parsons is playing an entirely different game. No, man, you it's okay. I mean, to keep it 100% real, you got spanked. It happens. Because at the end of the day, it's like Brian Broder said, and it's like y'all heard me say for weeks. It comes a time that you're going to play a team, and all the gimmicks, all the special teams, all the plays you keep winning by, it's going to come a time you're going to play a team, they're better than you, and none of that stuff works. And you're going to get spanked. And if the Cowboys ever want to be good again, they have got to get to the point and not depend upon what other people do. Stop having a team that you want to win in these crazy ways of if you're not dominant if you're winning like that. You're not dominant if you're winning like that. You got to line up in front of teams and just say, we're better than them. Let's go out and execute, beat this team in the ground like a nail, and go home. End of story. Let's execute and do our thing. All right, guys. Good chatting with y'all today, man. Y'all have a happy new year. Y'all make sure y'all go and watch this game. Man, I'm excited about this last game. I really am. I want to see what the attitude's going to be like. I'll be honest with you. I'm actually hoping that Trey Lance plays. I do. I hope Trey Lance plays. I hope the Cowboys give Trey Lance a chance. Go ahead and let this guy play the last game, man. I mean, golly, you paid this guy $5.3 million, man. I mean, stop all this. Cooper Rush gives you the best opportunity to win stuff. I'm sorry, Washington is coming out to destroy the Cowboys. So you might as well spare Cooper Rush this beat down. Go ahead and let Trey Lance play, man. I think Trey Lance will be a lot more exciting against the Washington Commanders. I think he'll be way more entertaining for the fan base. And I think he will give the fan base something to look forward to. We'll be talking about this stuff after the game, and we'll be talking about a whole bunch of this stuff. I think the Cowboys may wind up signing. I think they may wind up signing. Some people saying they may wind up signing Trey Lance again to the backup quarterback job. Cowboys star, no Gilmore, no Sam Williams, no D-Law. Never should have traded Amari Cooper. Nope. Alex, you're right. He says there's no depth on this roster. Yep. We've got a lot of injuries, but that excuse shouldn't cut it. Nope. And they did it to themselves. That's why I was saying, Michael, this ain't the same team, bro. This is not the same team. Willie T, Michael needs to shut up. Quit trying to be the face of the team. This is why I'll be so glad when Dak Prescott's back. Michael is terrible at this microphone stuff. He just is. He's terrible at this microphone stuff, man. Michael sounds like he's been drinking Kool-Aid. Yeah, man. I don't know. Michael just he's trying to be a leader, but he's being more of a cheerleader. He's got to mature. Michael Parsons looks talking like somebody spiked because he's drunk from Cool. Man, Michael is breaking all the rules with this. He's breaking the rules of the business of football. And he's got to get out of this room with Jerry Jones. Philly D said he talks like he's in the 8th grade detention. Man, I'm saying, wait, Cowboy star. What game? Man, what game was this dude talking about, man? I don't know what game he was talking about. Michelle, because she said Booth and Cooper Rush lost the game. Hey, they went after him, didn't they? They went after him. He said he drinking that Jonestown special Kool-Aid. Man, he is drinking something. Micah set himself up to get screwed by Steven. Oh, you better believe he is. And he deserves every bit of it. Every bit of it. He deserves it. Cowboys Nation, me need some experience explaining this is what you don't get. Jerry gave Michael the Kool-Aid. What else? Me and DZ will try to explain to Cowboys Nation. Man, I do not understand it. He wants to win. He's not a leader, but he sees it. Yeah. I think he wants to win, and they need the leader back on the team. They should have left Booth in Philly. Not even let him board the plane back to Dallas. Hey, they went after it. Cowboys put him out there. I give them credit. They went after it. Real Daryl says, fire show. Appreciate you, my brother. Willie D said, we about to lose. That's why I said, man, go ahead and let Trey Lance play, man. Especially for the way you did this, man. How you gonna put this man out the last 2 minutes of the game? In a 41-7 route, you put this man out with 2 minutes to go. Man, let this man play the next game. Yes, sir. Happy New Year's, everyone. Yeah, for sure. The attitude is going to Fiji 03. Appreciate your Cowboy star. Yes, sir. Happy New Year to you all. Appreciate you all supporting the channel this year. Man, we're going to be even stronger in the coming year in 2025, Lord willing. Why does everyone want to see Trey Lance? He's not good. Well, at the same time, Willie T, Cooper Rush ain't good. Copper Store said we going to get blew out. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty bad. Yes, sir. Robert M., y'all have a safe one, too. McCarthy blew up all the good of the last 4 games with his 41-7 beatdown. Yep. Maybe it was that generational green. Yes, sir. Jerry's going to do Michael like he tried to do Dez and Romo, get him to sign a contract without his agent. Michael might do it. He that crazy. Zeke, you debunk the narrative of 2025 and Dak Prescott doesn't beat good teams. Oh, we will. Don't you worry, man. I got some good stuff planned. We're going to be talking about as soon as we end this next game. I got a lot of good stuff planned for the offseason. All right, guys. Happy New Year. Appreciate you all. Till the next time, let's talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. Peace.